Remember to turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. There are 4 things that make a great fight: the build-up, the motion, the phases, and the conclusion. There are extra things such as clever use of environment or the power system, but the first 4 are the most important. While a fight doesn't necessarily need all 4, the greatest ones in anime usually have most of them. The build-up comes before the actual battle. This is usually done by foreshadowing or setting up a battle between 2 characters. If there is going to be an ideological battle, the 2 sides and their ideologies can be established at this stage. This is crucial because it creates anticipation and excitement for the battle. It makes us want to see the battle. Build-up often leads into emotion. It can give the characters a motive for fighting, and if this motive is something like vengeance, it definitely creates an emotional attachment to the fight. Emotion is necessary because it makes the audience care about the fight. If we're watching 2 strangers fight, we have little to no investment in the results of the battle. If I watch a random video of 2 characters fighting, the impact will definitely be inferior to the amount of impact the fight would have if I knew the characters and the story behind the fight. Rival battles tend to nail the build-up and emotion very well. As rivals, they are usually at odds with each other for varying reasons. Their status as a rival automatically creates some kind of anticipation for a battle between the 2, because they usually want to surpass each other. In the case of characters like Sasuke or Bakugo, their motives behind fighting lie in some kind of jealousy of the other's power. This gives us something to latch onto emotionally. The more personal the reasons for fighting are, the better. The most important factor would be having phases in the fight. I define a phase as a change in the pattern of the fight from one or both fighters. Phases also tend to switch the tides of battle. For example, in Magi, when Alibaba is fighting Todo, he starts by using his royal swordplay, but when that isn't effective, he switches to using a fighting style closer to that of Sharken's. Phase 1 would be where Alibaba is on the losing side with his royal swordplay, and phase 2 would be when he takes the upper hand with Sharken's swordplay. Phases are important because they change the state of the battle and keep it refreshing and interesting. If 2 characters are using the same exact attacks for the entire battle, it'll get boring really quickly and it will be uncreative. The same can be said if one character is dominant throughout the entire fight. But if the characters switch tactics and the tides swing, the fight becomes more engaging. It also shows that the characters are strategizing and adapting. Another great example would be Misaka's fight against Mugino in Railgun. The fight started with Railgun running away as Meltdowner fired lasers at her from a distance, but the phase shifts when Mikasa approaches her opponent face to face with explosive dolls. Another battle between level 5s does the same thing in Index. In Accelerator's fight against Kakine, the latter starts off on the winning side with his unknown abilities, but the battle becomes even when the phase shifts into Accelerator going all out and getting a grasp on his opponent's ability. More phases doesn't necessarily equal a better fight, but generally, the longer a fight is, the more phases it should have, like Yusuke vs Toguro for example. The final factor for a good fight is a conclusion. A fight that doesn't conclude is like a story that just cuts off. A conclusion provides the battle with catharsis. Conclusions that are a final phase shift are the most interesting for me. For example, in Jin and Karya's final fight, the 2 are on equal footing, but at the end, Karya stabs Jin, but the latter reveals that he opened himself up to get a clear blow on his opponent. The 2 were on equal footing up until the final attacks, which put one on top, creating a phase shift. It's like a last-minute plot twist. Conclusions that come through clever use of surroundings, power system, or strategy also stand above regular ones. It makes the victory feel well-earned and shows the writer's skill and creativity. A good example would be Josuke vs Akira, when Josuke uses his fixing ability to trap his electric opponent in a previously busted tire. Chili peppers breaking the tire causes it to expel air and blow the stand and the tire into the sea, spreading his stand and its electricity. Lastly, conclusions that end in draws are the least satisfying. Having no winner is kind of disappointing, but it can be well done. There are other things that could boost the quality of a fight, but aren't necessary. The first one is an ideological battle. When 2 characters have ideologies that clash, it adds another layer to the physical fight and makes the fight more meaningful. It's important that one side actually wins the ideological battle. As I said before, strategy can enhance the quality of a fight as it shows off the creativity and intelligence of the writer and the characters. In conclusion, build-up, emotion, phases, and a conclusion are the 4 most important factors for writing a good fight. It would be very difficult to find a well-written fight that doesn't have at least 3 of these factors, if not all 4.
There are 4 things that make a great fight: the build-up, the emotion, the phases, and the conclusion. The battle between Naruto and Sasuke at the Valley of the End manages to hit all of these 4 points well. which makes for an exceptional battle. In this video, I will be breaking down Naruto vs Sasuke. The build-up and emotion are important because that allows for us to connect with the fighters. If we are watching two complete strangers fight, it doesn't mean anything to us viewers. But if we are watching two best friends that we have come so far with, we have some kind of understanding what the fight means to the characters. Naruto was the underdog who always wanted to become the greatest ninja. Meanwhile, Sasuke was always at the top of his class. Naruto wants to become Hokage and Sasuke wants power. Sasuke initially thought nothing of Naruto, but throughout the story, Naruto has been slowly catching up to him and even surpassing Sasuke. Now Sasuke is falling behind someone who he never saw as a rival, and Naruto is reaching Sasuke's goal before Sasuke himself. Sasuke becomes extremely envious of Naruto and challenges him to a fight. When he sees the difference in the power of their signature jutsu, this becomes the last straw. To add fuel to the flame, the Sound Four show up and display for Sasuke how powerful he can get if he joins Orochimaru. Now Naruto's closest friend is going to join the bad guys. After going on a risky mission where the ninja involved almost lose their lives, Naruto finally catches up to Sasuke. The only person who could somewhat understand his pain, the person he considered to be his best friend, is now going to the dark side. Now Naruto wants to stop him and bring him back to the village. Right before the battle, flashbacks of all of their time together plays to emphasize the weight and importance of this battle. Early on in the fight, Sasuke even tells Naruto that he is his best friend, making this battle more tragic. This battle is special because viewers can sympathize with both fighters since they are the two main characters and even pick either side, something that you don't see a lot in anime. Phases are important because they keep the battle refreshing and engaging. A phase is when the battle changes in some kind of way. A phase can be as small as one character trying a new strategy, or as big as going from hand-to-hand combat to using powers. If a fight is just two characters attacking each other with nothing changing, the fight gets stale very quickly. If the fight is short, phases aren't completely necessary, but they will always make a fight better. Since this battle is the final climactic fight of part 1, this battle is long and thus has multiple phases. This specific fight usually changes phases whenever Naruto or Sasuke gets a new power-up. In phase 1, Sasuke is shown to be physically stronger, faster, and more durable than Naruto. He is able to take Naruto's punches without flinching and is able to punch Naruto across the valley. He is fast enough to outclass Naruto in taijutsu. Sasuke's skill in ninja weaponry is also shown. Sasuke's fireball jutsu is also shown to be more destructive. His slickness is also shown in the way that he keeps stealing things from Naruto. When Sasuke activates his Sharingan, he completely obliterates Naruto's shadow clones and is even able to tell where the real Naruto is. Sasuke seems to be ready to kill Naruto in order to gain more power, which crushes Naruto. This phase of the battle shows how Sasuke outperforms Naruto in almost every way, putting him back on top, and revealing how much better Sasuke got because of Orochimaru. His superhuman strength is the clearest example of this development, which even Naruto realizes. Sasuke being completely dominant in this fight gives a sense of hopelessness for Naruto supporters, but also gives a sense of satisfaction for Sasuke supporters. Also, putting the main character on the losing side at the beginning of the final battle also rises the stakes and gives more of a feeling of tension. Towards the end of the phase, Naruto snaps back into reality and is ready to fight Sasuke. They have a Rasengan and Chidori clash that results in a draw. Sasuke is pissed that Naruto can match his full power Chidori after his power-up, while Naruto is sad that Sasuke is actually trying to kill him. This is an interesting development because previously, Naruto's Rasengan is hinted to be far stronger than Sasuke's Chidori, which Sasuke was aware of, but now that they are clashing and the result is a draw, Sasuke is angry that they tied instead of being satisfied that their jutsu are now equal. Sasuke seems to be holding himself higher than Naruto, but either way, it is satisfying for Sasuke supporters to see him cancel out a jutsu that was previously too strong for him. After this clash, Sasuke enters his Curse Seal Stage 1 and makes a claim about high-class ninja being able to read one another's thoughts during battle. Sasuke then continues to show his enhanced strength and superior taijutsu along with some strategy. At the end of the phase, Sasuke stabs Naruto with his Chidori and deactivates his curse mark, but then Naruto's Nine Tails Chakra mode starts to activate, beginning phase 2. In phase 2, Naruto supporters get their time when Naruto begins to dominate the battle. Naruto is shown to be physically stronger than Sasuke. His tailed beast healing is also shown when his wound completely heals. Naruto is also faster and outclasses Sasuke in taijutsu during this phase. He can also create shockwaves capable of canceling out a fireball jutsu. Sasuke now questions what Naruto is. The full potential of Naruto's chakra mode is shown in this phase, and Sasuke, who was previously dominating, is now fighting an opponent out of his league. At one point in the battle, Sasuke speaks of how Naruto doesn't understand his pain because he never had a family, but Naruto replies that he sees Sasuke as a brother. When Sasuke asks why Naruto goes so far for him, he replies that this was one of the first bonds he ever had, which is why he will stop him. After this, Sasuke puts on his headband while promising to break their bond. This is important because in their rooftop battle, Naruto tells Sasuke to put on his headband because it is a sign that combatants respect each other, but Sasuke refuses and tells him that he wouldn't even be able to scratch it. In this battle, when Sasuke puts on his headband, he acknowledges Naruto's strength because of the pain of loneliness, something that the latter has been fighting for. Sasuke still believes that Naruto will not scratch it. Sasuke's belief that pain makes one stronger was passed down from his older brother, Itachi, who he was not strong enough to fight before. Sasuke now believes that he will gain more strength through severing bonds. Sasuke's earlier claim about ninja being able to read each other's thoughts during battle comes into play when Sasuke says no more talking, now believing that they are equals. At the start of phase 3, Sasuke gets another Tomoe, completing his Sharingan. Sasuke is now able to fight without the chakra-consuming curse mark. In this phase, Sasuke is now able to surpass the Nine-Tails enhanced Naruto with the capabilities of his full Sharingan. Whereas Naruto was previously too fast for Sasuke, the latter can now see the former's attacks in slow motion and counter efficiently. Naruto is unable to get a hit on Sasuke because he is always one step ahead. In phase 1, the two punched at the same time and caught each other's fists. This same scene is paralleled in this phase when the two are about to repeat this scene, but due to Sasuke's predicting, his punch lands first and knocks Naruto back. When Naruto makes shadow clones in the Nine-Tails chakra form, Sasuke is able to completely handle them with his taijutsu. Naruto is able to get off one sneak attack with his clones on Sasuke towards the end of the phase, but Sasuke burns them all. Sasuke ends this phase with a deadly falcon drop. In phase 4, Naruto calls on even more power from the Nine-Tails and turns into his one-tailed form for the first time. Now, Naruto is physically faster and stronger than Sasuke. Naruto can create more shockwaves and manipulate his chakra cloak for different attacks. Sasuke is unable to predict the actions of the chakra cloak and is left on the defensive. Naruto is also able to tank a fireball jutsu, an attack that obliterated him in the previous phase. Sasuke can barely dodge and continues to question what Naruto is. When all hope seems lost for Sasuke, he activates his curse seal again, but this time he reaches stage 2. Something that the Sound 4 members were shown to do with their curse marks. This starts phase 5, the final phase. Sasuke can now tank one of Naruto's one-tailed attacks with a single wing and force him back with the same wing. Sasuke's body is getting weaker and Naruto loses power in his left arm. With both fighters reaching their limits, they decide to end the battle with one final clash. Sasuke's curse seal creates a black Chidori and Naruto's one-tailed cloak creates a Nine-Tails Rasengan. The conclusion is important because the end of the battle must be satisfying and wrap things up. In this final clash, Naruto and Sasuke initially seem to be equal. Their attacks slip by each other and head for the target. Sasuke almost stabs Naruto, but switches to a punch at the last second. Meanwhile, Naruto scratches Sasuke's headband. This short exchange does two things. Sasuke's hesitation and decision to not kill Naruto shows that he wasn't truly ready to kill his best friend. And Naruto's decision to go for Sasuke's headband ties a link to Sasuke's earlier comment on the subject, showing Naruto's determination to receive recognition through his acceptance of Sasuke's challenge. Sasuke is the last one standing and leaves his headband with Naruto before leaving. Naruto, the protagonist, has just failed to accomplish his goal and the viewers can feel the weight and sadness. This fight gave a chance for Sasuke to bring closure to his envy towards Naruto. It also gave Naruto, Sasuke, and the viewers a chance to see how a fight between the two of them would turn out. This highly anticipated fight paid off to be one of the greatest in not only Naruto, but in all of anime, and was a great way to end off the first part of the series. The shifting tides gave each combatant chances to dominate the fight and show new and foreshadowed abilities. The Rasengan and Chidori clashes allowed the viewers to know that they are now both equal in power. The fighting of best friends is a recurring theme in Naruto, and the decision to place the fight in the same place where Hashirama and Madara had their final battle was brilliant. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content.
This is the first in my potential series of art analysis videos for manga fights. I've already talked about the great writing behind this fight, so if you want to see that, I'll probably link it. But this essay will be talking about the art of the battle. I'll make a video on what makes a good manga fight in terms of art later. But for this one, I'll summarize my grading system. First, each action should have an anticipation, action, and can optionally have a follow-through. Anticipation is the wind-up for a punch. Action is the punch landing. Follow-through is the receiving character falling back and or the puncher leaning all the way through. Next is dynamic poses. The dynamic pose should exaggerate the action and make it look cool. The camera angle is also important because it can make a shot look even cooler and dynamic and provide clarity. Clarity is how well I can tell what's happening. Space is how much space the panel takes up. The more important the action, the more space it should take. Drag is when things that are further away from the center of action drag behind, making everything look more realistic. Motion is how well the character's movements are displayed. The rule of cool is extra credit. That's all I have for now. The fight starts at chapter 219. When Sasuke punches Naruto, it has anticipation, action, and follow-through. His fist starts moving in one panel, it connects in the next, then it makes a cracking sound. Then Naruto coughs up blood, then Naruto flies away. A lot of panels are spent selling this attack. The pose is dynamic for both characters. Sasuke really leans in for the punch, and Naruto's limbs drag behind the direction his body's going in. The camera angle also gives us a clear view of the entire action. The panel has enough space, taking up the top third of the page. The black turns into motion lines to emphasize the movement. When Naruto runs at Sasuke, the camera angle is cool. It is a shot from behind and low, and Naruto is toned to show that he is close to the screen. When the two jump at each other, the middle panel has Naruto's anticipation. The next has his action and Sasuke dodging. Next is Sasuke's anticipation. The next page has Sasuke kicking Naruto in a beautiful panel. Sasuke's pose is very dynamic, with his back foot coming close to the screen. There are speed lines on his foot for emphasis. Naruto's body is also dynamic, since his body was just moving forward. His limbs are still moving forward, while his head jerks back to sell the attack. The small panel of Sasuke's smirk before this attack really sells Sasuke's confidence during this battle. This attack also takes up the top third, providing enough space. Speed lines are in the backgrounds of most of these attacks to further emphasize the motion and speed. The next two panels are the follow-through of Naruto falling. The panel of Naruto summoning clones looks great. Each character is in their own dynamic pose. The characters are toned to separate them from the background, and the panel takes up the middle third, which is enough space to show the importance of the action. A chain of panels with quick actions take place before leading to a double page spread, where the entire top half is a panel of Naruto's link of clones. This attack has anticipation, action, and follow-through. I'll be calling this complete action. But the kick is a small panel and is shot from a distance, both of which lower the impact of the panel. Sasuke's next attack is mediocre. He zooms up to Naruto in one panel, but we don't see the anticipation. In the next, he's already punched Naruto and the latter is flying away. Furthermore, it is shot from a distance. The next exchange is great. In chapter 226, the bottom of page 6 has two panels, each showing the shinobi's foot taking off. Next panel is of Naruto running from a distance with multiple footsteps, then Sasuke doing the same, then Naruto running up a wall, then the two coming close, shot from above, then the two coming closer and rearing their fists back, then coming even closer, and finally attacking. The anticipation was phenomenal, but the action had such a small panel. Then Sasuke has a panel of stepping to the side. In three quick panels, he reaches into Naruto's pouch. Naruto looks, then Sasuke takes a kunai. In one tall panel, Sasuke throws the kunai at Naruto while the latter pulls out a shuriken. The poses of these characters and angle of the shot are great. It really feels like Sasuke is falling while throwing the kunai due to foreshortening, meaning that Sasuke is smaller while Naruto is bigger due to their distance to the camera. In three panels, the two weapons head at each other, collide, then fall in the water. On the next page, Sasuke kicks Naruto in three panels with complete action. The panel for the main action is small, making it a little underwhelming. All of these attacks in this exchange had complete action and clarity. Next is Sasuke charging his Chidori. We get three panels of him weaving each hand sign before getting half a page of him charging it. The black turns to motion lines while there are speed lines in the background. The shot from the side along with him standing on the rushing waterfall looks really cool. Naruto lifts his hand in one panel, then does his own sign in the next, and the follow-through is a clone appearing. The angle of this panel is really cool as well. Because of the camera, neither Naruto looks like they're facing the exact same direction. Sasuke runs down the waterfall in an appropriately tall panel. Naruto's Rasengan is charged in one panel and complete in the next. Sasuke dashes towards Naruto. A cool little detail is the drops of water kicked up that are close to the screen, while the characters are far. Naruto launching himself is almost like animation. He grabs his arm, then the next panel has him planting his foot, then the clone dragging the rail behind, then the two side by side, then the two side by side again, but with the Rasengan in view, then Naruto being launched, shot from behind with Sasuke coming towards him. The bottom 2 panels have parallel poses for the two. All of these poses were dynamic. On the next page, we have 4 panels, which is like a frame-by-frame animation of the two coming together and clashing, shot from underwater with the kunai falling deeper each panel. The next page has 3 panels of water bubbling up and then settling. Next is a 2-page spread of the iconic Rasengan vs Chidori clash. The lower panel is a close-up of the hands and their jutsu from below. The top panel is shown from an ants eye view that has a touch of fisheye lens. The poses are epic as the water explodes around them. Once again, the characters and the water are toned to highlight what's important. No focus lines are needed for such a majestic spread. Next is another double-page spread. There are 2 small panels of each shinobi's face before zooming out and showing the explosion. In the next chapter, their jutsus are shown clashing close up again, and then the hands begin to move apart, which leads to a spread of the rivals blasting apart. Both are shown splashing through the water before crashing or sinking. Sasuke's next assault is spectacular. He starts to lean back in one panel, leans back even more while preparing fireballs, and finally spits it. The next panel is a first-person shot of the fireballs heading towards Naruto, who is jumping away. The fire is toned to show that it is close to the screen. In the very next panel, Sasuke is preparing a kick right next to Naruto in the air. The next panel is the exact same moment in time, except zoomed out. This shows Sasuke's full pose and shows the footsteps and leap that he took, emphasizing his speed. Next is Sasuke's kick landing close up, then Naruto flying back with Sasuke following through on his kick in a kinetic pose in the bottom third. Sasuke's next anticipation is also detailed. He's in the air, then lands behind Naruto, then charges towards him, but the actual attack doesn't have clarity. It says pow, but we can't see the actual attack due to the camera angle. Sasuke's Chidori is also good. He charges it in one panel, leans in during another, and the attack is off screen for a cliffhanger. The next time we see him, his hand has impaled Naruto's chest. The pose for the lean-in was particularly impressive. The spread of Naruto with a QB drawn with a brush is extraordinary. His wounds heal in 3 panels. The pose he makes when threatening Sasuke is nice. The way his arms cross and his fingers are curled, showing off his sharp nails, along with the crouch, just looks so cool. Naruto's leap towards Sasuke looks monstrous. He twists his body and arm in an unnatural way. The next panel is his hand swiping through the air. Then it connects, but Sasuke blocks. A quick panel of Naruto screaming happens before he swipes all the way through and slams Sasuke. The attack takes up a third of the page, which seems to be a good amount of space for an important attack. Naruto's pose is sold by him spinning so far that his shoulder is pointed towards the ground. Sasuke's fireball has anticipation and action, but Naruto screams it away. The panel of Naruto screaming is drawn in thin short lines with a 1-point perspective angle circling around the center of his face. This really sells the attack. The next page has Naruto moving really fast and attacking Sasuke underwater. It's not too bad, but I don't like this. I'll call it summarizing. Summarizing gives just enough information for the reader to imagine the attacks that are going on. Naruto zooming around does that. Then the quick close-up hits give a little more detail, but I prefer attacks that show at least half of the body and take up more space. Summarizing is lazy on the artist's part and cheats the audience out of good visual action, forcing them to imagine the scene instead. Chapter 230 is where Kishimoto starts going crazy and making what I like to call manga sakuga. It's a shift in style and increase in quality, but instead for manga. Naruto's run starts with a small panel of his feet taking off, but leads into a marvelous spread. Naruto is drawn almost entirely in thin short lines. Furthermore, his backside starts to trail off, and behind him is a stretched out after image of his dash, also drawn with thin lines. Both Narutos are surrounded by a stream of energy to separate them from the speed lines in the background to emphasize how fast he's moving. The next panel has Sasuke's full Tomoe Sharingan eyes close up, drawn in the focus point thin lines like Naruto's scream. The panel of Sasuke evading Naruto's punch is great. Sasuke's lean to the side and Naruto being hunched over makes the shot very dynamic. The black turns into motion lines once again. The edges of the line work are also zigzagged to emphasize the speed and imitate motion blur. This has happened a lot throughout this fight, but this is the most notable example so far. A shot of Sasuke's foot skidding is shown to display him regaining balance. Then his new Sharingan is shown again. The next panel looks remarkable. It has the onion skin of Naruto recovering and charging towards Sasuke. There are 4 Narutos in one panel, and it looks like 4 key frames of animation placed in one panel. Sasuke's Sharingan vision is further emphasized when the onion skin is no longer behind, but instead ahead. He can see pre-images of Naruto. Naruto is winding up for a punch, but there is another toned and see-through Naruto that is 1 frame ahead. Both of these are brilliant. The onion skin looked outstanding, and the pre-image was genius. He knew that it would be confusing, so he colored the pre-image with screen tones and made it see-through. Both of these notable panels take up over a third of the page. The next panel has Sasuke dodging the pre-image before the actual Naruto gets there. The next 4 panels are Naruto's fist slowly catching up to the pre-image in slow-mo. The next panel is back to regular speed, with both characters leaning into their actions, motion lines, and speed lines in the background. The Jutsu clash had epic animation with anticipation and action, but these pages took it to another level. Naruto runs up again, and in the middle panel, there is a pre-image and after image, making 3 Narutos total. This time, Sasuke aims the punch at the pre-image. In the next panel, it connects to the pre-image, then it connects to Naruto's face, and the next has Sasuke whacking Naruto in half of the page. Sasuke leans all the way forward for a dynamic pose. The shot from behind, with slight foreshortening, looks amazing. What's smart is that since we already saw Sasuke's fist clearly in the anticipation, it doesn't need to be shown in the action. Naruto falls into the water. In one panel, Sasuke turns around close up, and in the next, he acrobatically kicks another Naruto. The angle of his face during the turn looks cool, and the kick looks epic. The use of a tall panel works really well here, which is a trend in this fight. Then the worst type of summarizing happens. We see the sky with a bunch of sound effects, forcing us to imagine the action. But that doesn't take away from how crazy these panels were. Naruto's dash, the onion skin, and the pre-image were all creative and astonishing tricks that added a lot of style to the exchange and made such epic moments even more epic. Naruto's transformation also has a long build-up. He starts to rise with his head facing back. In the next panel, the bubbles emerge while his head is facing up. We see 3 panels of bubbles forming around his hands and his nails growing. Then we get a 2-page spread of him leaned over on all 4s with the one-tailed cloak. This pose looks great. The way the inside of the cloak lines have a small layer of white inside, preventing any lines from touching the edge of the cloak, really clarifies Kishimoto's vision. Naruto leaps at Sasuke in an animalistic pose. The close-up of Sasuke's eyes looks really cool. The pre-images are used again, but this time to emphasize Naruto's speed and unpredictability. The gap between the two is much wider than before. The pose of Naruto's pre-image is very kinetic. We see Sasuke alone in one panel, and then him looking at the pre-image right beside him in the next. He dodges the attack, and 2 more panels are used to show the real Naruto reaching the pre-image like before, but something surprises Sasuke in the last panel. In the next page, we see Naruto's chakra forming another arm to attack. The black background highlights the action, and this panel takes up a third. Next is a third-person perspective of the arm moving towards Sasuke. The arm is toned, along with a thin white layer inside to make the distinction easy. Then the attack lands. Sadly, this is shot from afar. Sasuke falls back and recovers. After a failed fire attack, Naruto reaches back, then reaches forward, then a spread displays his stretching chakra arm. Naruto lands another off-screen attack. I don't like off-screen attacks unless they serve a good purpose, like Sasuke's second Chidori. When Naruto grabs Sasuke, he pulls in, then Sasuke is shown being pulled in. Naruto's punch is launched, then it hits him in the next panel. Sasuke's Curse Seal 2 transformation takes up 5 panels with animation-like quality. His hair slowly changes colors, and the curse marks group up to change the color of his skin. The next page shows the 5th panel in the spread. The panel of Naruto charging is epic. The way his body twists as he scrapes the ground combined with Sasuke's confident stance from the back looks magnificent. The actual attack is sadly covered by smoke. Sasuke's wing blocks the attack, then flaps him back, and we see the crash. The spread of Sasuke's 2 wings is stunning. Taking up the top half, Sasuke's pose along with the hand-like wings pointed upward, combined with the camera angle, just looks beautiful. The fisheye lens of Itachi is stunning. Sasuke and Naruto charge their respective jutsus. The next spread has 2 panels of Naruto bubbling up his Rasengan, and a large panel of the Vermilion Rasengan. On the other side, Sasuke parallels this, but instead charges flapping Chidori. The leaning in pose and foot positioning of both of these poses, along with the great spacing, makes this look breathtaking. The bottom corner of each page has the respective character's eye, while the center has them jumping at each other. The next page has 4 frames of Naruto moving in and thrusting his attack forward. The camera starts from the side and slowly rotates to the front. The next page has Sasuke doing the same thing but from the opposite side. Finally, the 2 clash in a 2-page spread. The characters are all white with solid black shading, with their white attacks against the black background. Naruto's pose is epic, but Sasuke's is a little weak. The way his legs are posed seems unenthusiastic, but the way his right hand covers his face is cool. A barrier forms around the two, and the 2 attacks go past each other. Sasuke switches to a punch, and Naruto scratches his rival's headband. The barrier expands in 2 more panels before taking up a 2-page spread. White light begins to crack through in multiple panels before the 2 are shown from afar. They each take 2 panels fading away before an empty panel is shown. The seal of reconciliation is shown. The next panel zooms out to show that it was a younger Naruto and Sasuke doing this. The next panel is blank. The fight ends with Naruto on the floor and Sasuke standing. In conclusion, this fight has a lot of complete action. It often goes above and beyond and creates animation-like sequences. The poses are kinetic and really sell the attacks. The camera angles are dynamic and chosen wisely and artistically. The important attacks often have the appropriate space needed to deliver their impact. The attacks are very clear. And finally, Kishimoto drops some stylistic flair with Manga Sakuga. He even changes his shading technique for the final clash. All of these points combined with the writing makes this fight easily the best one in Naruto. In my fight analysis, I usually go over build-up and emotion before going into phases, but because most of my audience already knows Naruto, I'll skip to phases and conclusion and go into more detail on each. I may bring up some points from the previous two sections if I feel like they're important. So in Naruto and Sasuke's final fight, the first phase is a little different in the anime versus the manga. In the manga, phase 1 is very quick. The two of them clash, Sasuke shoots a fireball, Naruto blocks, and Sasuke uses Chidori from behind. The fight quickly escalated to phase 2, but the anime does something much different. For starters, the scene of them jumping down and rushing at each other has callbacks to all the various different time periods of the two characters, which is epic. There is also an entire taijutsu scene before the events in the manga take place, and honestly, it is the best part of the fight. Not only is the choreography amazing, but the anime brings back the concept of using your opponent's hand to weave a sign. The fight starts with Sasuke having an advantage, a neat allusion to the part 1 fight, and eventually changes to the two fighting on par. Attention to detail like Sasuke constantly stopping Naruto from weaving his own sign is brilliant. The fight also uses attacks that were thought to be forgotten and creative sequences. Sasuke uses a kunai and wire along with universal pull and blaze control in an epic way. Naruto has partial transformation and uses double Rasengans in close quarters combat. After Naruto fully transforms and starts reaching with his arms, it goes back to the manga. This takes the fight into phase 2. It starts with Sasuke activating his Susanoo and firing arrows. This is by far one of the worst phases of the fight. I will eventually make a video discussing why I hate the kaiju avatars, but for now, just know that they are a terrible addition to the chakra power system. This phase has simple exchanges between their two avatars. The anime adds some references to the first fight, and has Sasuke using fireballs and Kirin and Susanoo, which is pretty cool. One cool canon moment though was the Rasengan Chidori clash in their avatars at the end of the phase. The next phase is a little longer, but still has the problems of phase 2. It starts with Sasuke absorbing the tailed beast chakra and Naruto making clones. One compliment I will give this battle phase is continuing the tradition of having both sides activate or unlock new forms mid-battle. Sasuke gets his tailed beast Susanoo, while Naruto gets his three-headed Kurama, which is a dope reference to the Buddhist Ashura, which is also the name of Naruto's ancestor. Sasuke clearly has the advantage during this phase. Naruto gets nature energy and ends the phase on equal footing with Indra's arrow. After another explosion, we arrive at the fourth phase, which is the best canon phase. The two are low on chakra and are forced to use taijutsu. Naruto is able to avoid Amaterasu with his cloak, which is a complete ass pull, but the following attack is great. Naruto uses his Uzumaki barrage and Sasuke interrupts the final attack, which is a clean reference to their rooftop battle. Sasuke brings back the shuriken tattoos from his Itachi fight as well. There's some more cool choreography, with Naruto letting a clone take a hit, similar to his fight with Neji. Eventually, the fight has a collection of close-ups of each attack, which was a little disappointing because I would have loved to see more of Kishimoto's choreography. After this, Naruto has yet another reference to his Neji fight with an uppercut. The phase ends with Naruto doing his first one-man Rasengan, and Sasuke mixing Amaterasu with Chidori. I want to take the second to acknowledge how epic this conclusion is. Throughout the story, all other Rasengan users have been able to use the jutsu with only one hand, while Naruto always needed a clone. But in this final battle, he's mastered this jutsu to use it with one hand, like the rest. Saving such a development for the end is epic. Sasuke mixing blades with Chidori is like something out of a fan fiction, but it is still awesome. Sasuke attacking from the air with Naruto jumping from the ground is yet another reference to the rooftop fight. The fact that this ended with the iconic clash is some of the best fan service Naruto has provided and creates for such an amazing conclusion. Both of them get knocked out and lose their arms, almost bleeding out to death. My grade for this fight is pretty mediocre. If we include anime scenes, phase 1 was epic and phase 4 was pretty good, but phase 2 and 3 were subpar. The best fights in Naruto don't have subpar phases, and when you take away the anime, the fight gets even worse. Let me take a second to compare this with the first Valley fight. In part 1, almost every phase had a clear winner. The winners went back and forth, with Sasuke winning, then Naruto winning. The reasons they won were also due to their transformations and boost in power. In part 2, no one wins any of the phases. Most phases start with Sasuke winning, but then end in a tie. Then there's the choreography. The anime definitely added a lot to the part 1 fight, because half the phases in the manga were only a few blows. So a lot of the iconic scenes in the fight are from the anime, but even if we compare manga to manga, Part 1's fight is still better. It had better choreography and art than Part 2. Scenes like Sasuke predicting Naruto's attacks or the slow motion clash of the first phase are amazing use of panels. Even the very short exchanges have engaging choreography. In Part 2, Phase 2 has most of the attacks as super close-ups, so there's no choreography there. In Phase 3, a lot of Sasuke's attacks are also close-ups. Only Sasuke's first attack is shown in full, so there is also very little choreography. Only Phase 4 has choreography, but since the characters are already tired, there isn't much of it. Although it has more than Part 1's second, third, and fourth phases individually, there isn't enough to compete when you put the whole fight together. You might be wondering why I keep bringing up choreography, but this is because there are two ways that Naruto makes a good fight. One is having great choreography, like Kakashi vs Obito, and two is having great strategy, like Sasuke vs Deidara. Naruto has mixed both before, like Naruto vs Pain or Sasuke vs Itachi, but for some reason, since the first Valley fight didn't have strategy, the second one didn't either, which is a shame. Instead, it relied on avatars swinging and blasting with no plan. Only Phase 4 had a semblance of strategy. The difference between the anime adaptations is that Part 1 went from a great fight to the best fight, while Part 2 went from a subpar fight to a decent one. In conclusion, use of avatars, lack of strategy or choreography, and the lack of phase winners are why this fight is subpar. I will be analyzing the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke from a comic artist perspective. I recommend that you watch my first battle art analysis to understand my grading system. If you want to see my analysis for the writing of the fight, there should be a card of the video on my main channel. In chapter 694, the first attack in this battle has complete action, starting from them standing as kids and ending with a stare down after the clash. This takes 7 panels. The clash also has a hit mark, the white effects flying out of the clash. This makes an attack more clear and helps to sell the attack. The jump back doesn't have anticipation, but it makes sense in this scenario because they are backing away quickly. The rest of the jump was good. Sasuke's fireball and Naruto's grab both have anticipation and action, but the space and camera aren't too good. Sasuke's fireball panel doesn't even take up the entire top third, but Naruto's reaction gladly takes up the entire bottom. When Sasuke spits the fire and Naruto blocks, the shots aren't close enough to be exciting. Both poses are also pretty unexpressive. A positive is that the black turns into motion lines in almost every action, and there are frequent speed lines. Sasuke's Chidori attack is brilliant though. We get complete action for this. He appears, charges, strikes, and Naruto crashes. The poses of the characters when Sasuke appears, along with being able to see both facial expressions, was nice. Sasuke's attack, shot from behind his left shoulder, gives good focus to his attack and also allows for foreshortening. While Naruto is crashing, Sasuke Susanoo is summoned and then fires. It has complete action, but the panels are either very small or the camera is far away. Naruto's orbs don't have anticipation at all, and his attacks also suffer from the panel size and camera distance. Sasuke's full Susanoo is great. The pose and space are drawn well. Naruto bringing out Kurama has 3 panels of anticipation before clashing with Sasuke. The panel of the clash has good space, but the camera isn't close enough or at an interesting angle. It's just shot from above. But the technique that Kishimoto uses is clever. He basically has 2 layers of the characters, with one slightly off-center. This creates a blurry vibration effect that perfectly reflects the weight of the attack. The next page is all summarizing, which I hate. There is one panel of a close-up of the tail and sword clashing, but the other 3 panels are just explosions. The whole page was poor, but the next is a beautiful spread. The 2 avatars have bumped fists and are shot from an ants eye view, with water crashing, similar to the first clash in their first battle. There is no anticipation, but it looks really cool because of the dynamic poses and the immense space. The 2 stare down and a close-up of the fist bump is shown as follow-through. More summarizing happens. A close-up of their hands clashing is shown during the flashback. The 2 shout before close-up clash happens on the next page. Kishimoto starts picking up again in the next pages. Sasuke's Chidori and Naruto's Rasengan each have 3 panels of anticipation, with the last on the double spread, where the 2 clash, which is a reference to the final clash in part 1. The anticipation and the attack panels all have dynamic poses. This clash is good, but it doesn't look as good as the one in part 1. The white energy and solid black shading make the part 1 clash pop more. The 2 fade away like in part 1 and the explosion erupts, crashing water everywhere. The 2 are blown back as follow through in the next chapter. Sasuke's Susanoo transformation happens in 3 panels, ending on a large panel and a double spread. Naruto's clone jutsu has action and follow through, and also has a panel with good spacing. Sasuke's first attack is messy. It takes up half of the page and has motion lines and hit marks, which are all good, but there is no anticipation.
The attack is not clear and it takes a few seconds to understand what's going on, and the shot isn't close enough. You could argue that it's supposed to be surprising and show his speed, but Sasuke's first Chidori has the same context, yet had complete action. If the panel looked cooler, like Minato and Naruto's Rasengans against Tobi and Pain respectively, I might have given it more leeway. Naruto's crash is good and takes 2 panels. The panel of the 3 clones winding up to attack is cool, but the shot has 4 characters and deserves more space. Sasuke's counter to the 3 attacks are shown up close, in small panels. My only problem is that the third is kinda unclear. The next panel zooms out and shows all of the attacks simultaneously. It's a great idea, but the shot is too far away, and like with the first panel on this page, doesn't get enough space required to make it look cool. The circular vibrations and the hit marks are good though. More summarizing happens on the next page. The projectiles have anticipation and follow through, but no action. The explosion looks great. Sasuke begins to charge an arrow in 2 panels. I feel like the pose and the camera could be more dynamic though. Naruto merging the Kuramas takes 2 panels. Him charging the Rasengans takes 3 panels, with the third having an okay pose, but having great space. Next is a parallel 2-page spread, with each character in the top corner and firing underneath. The 2 charging is centered at the top. The panel of Sasuke firing takes over half of the page, and most of the arrow is drawn in thin lines to mimic motion blur. The pose is also pretty good, so this is a good panel. Naruto is doing the same thing on the other side. His pose is more kinetic, but doesn't have the motion blur on the projectiles. The speed lines with the focal point really emphasize the foreshortening. This was a great spread. The panel of the attacks flying is too small and shot from too far away. The 2-page explosion tries to make up for this and looks beautiful. A page of setting damage is shown before the 2 fly down and crash in 3 panels. The next panels don't have very good spacing. They are either too small or shot from afar. The clarity is also decreased by the extremely detailed backgrounds. The part 1 fight got around this by toning the characters. The shot of the 3 clones running up is pretty good. It could be closer, but it had good posing and spacing. The 3 kicking up for an Uzumaki barrage is a big panel, but once again, it could have been shot closer. The kicks could have happened in one panel and the jump in the next. Naruto and Sasuke's clash has complete action and the action looks great. It could be a little closer, once again, but the pose and speed lines really sell the attacks. Sasuke's shuriken attack takes 5 panels in animation-like quality and complete action. His Chidori takes 3 panels of complete action. There is a step, his electric hand, then his strike. His strike is shot from afar to show that he took out 2 clones, but as you can guess, I would have preferred a closer shot. The poses are nice though. Naruto's next move is paced well, with the first having the clone grab Sasuke, then the real running, then the punch. The second shot has a cool angle, but the punch has a panel that's too small. The pose of the punch and Sasuke flying have very kinetic poses. Sasuke falls in the follow through. Sasuke charges and loses his Chidori in 3 panels, while Naruto's Rasengan has complete action in 4, ending in him falling. Sasuke's kick and punch have anticipation and action. The shot of his kick winding up is good, but the actual kick has a weak pose and is from far away, and not shot at an interesting angle. Sasuke's punch pretty much has the same problems. His beatdown is also summarized. Naruto's headbutt has action and follow through, while his rising is paced in 3 panels. The headbutt is sadly small and far away. In the 2-page spread, the 2 charge at each other before a bunch of summarizing happens. They are all close-ups of attacks, which is better than explosions or showing the sky combined with sound effects, but it's still summarizing, which is lame. When time has passed and they're tired, the punches have anticipation and action, but they are exhausted, so it's obviously not dynamic. Sasuke's Chidori has 2 panels of anticipation, with the second looking amazing. It takes up half of the page, the shot is close enough, and the camera angle creates foreshortening. 2 panels show his Sharingan disappearing, and the third shows the attack approaching. Naruto's uppercut looks cool, but there is no anticipation. The speed lines look like motion blur, and the panel is long, which is a great choice reminiscent of the part 1 fight. Sasuke crashes in the follow through. Sasuke takes 2 panels to charge his Amaterasu Chidori before leaping. The pose of the jump looks cool, but is far away. The panels with Naruto and Sasuke jumping at each other is laid out so that the position of the panels reflects the position of the characters. That's smart. The poses look good, especially Naruto's. They have speed lines in the background surrounding them, but they leave the center white, which creates great focus. There are then 2 close-ups of the characters thrusting their jutsus at the screen, like in part 1. The clash takes up the entire next page and rivals the one from part 1. The white energy is on the same level. The characters are outlined in white in a way that's better than part 1, and the messy cross-hatching shows off the light source stemming from their palms and looks realistic. Naruto's pose is perfect, but Sasuke's right hand looks a little unenthusiastic. Sasuke has the weaker pose yet again, but this panel is brilliant. If it was a double spread, I'd say that it was easily better than the part 1 clash.
An explosion happens in 2 panels. The characters are sketched from afar, they fade away, and everything goes blank, just like part 1. That's the end of the fight. This fight was visually mediocre for the most part. There are a lot of times where there isn't anticipation, which is disappointing because the part 1 fight had animation levels of complete action. The poses are nowhere near as dynamic. The camera angles are often flat and aren't close enough. The attacks don't have enough room to breathe and deliver the impact that is required. The motion looks great with speed lines, and the use of hit marks is an improvement. The panels are nowhere near as clear as part 1. The line work isn't as clean and tones aren't used to provide clarity. There are moments of brilliance here and there though. Tamakoma vs Kageura vs Azuma vs Suzunari is a 4-way battle that includes 13 combatants and is the best fight in World Trigger so far. It goes from chapter 167 to 175. I'll start with the phases, then go into the strategies. The first phase is Kageura and Zoe vs Ko and Kuruma. The phase starts as a shootout with guns and shields. The second phase of the entire battle happens during this one and is Mikumo vs Okudera and Ko Arai vs Emma. The first 3 fight with swords while the last one snipes. Mikumo runs away and places spiders while Okudera chases him. Ko Arai cuts off Mikumo's escape route and Emma shows up to snipe them, but Mikumo prevents anyone from scoring. Mikumo shoots back, but the lights soon turn off and Emma snipes him using the light from his trigger as a target. Phase 2 ends here with no victor. The first battle goes from phase 1 to phase 3, when Ko brings out his black sword and starts clashing with Kageura while the gunners support. This happens during phase 2. Kuruma drops his shield to dual wield. When Kageura enters a cramped space, his versatile mantis starts giving his team the advantage, forcing Kuruma to bring up a shield. Betsuyaku, switching off the lights, surprises Kageura's team and hides Ko's sword, but Kageura's side effect allows him to evade. But not for long, because when the lights switch back on, they blind the team using night vision and Ko lands a deadly blow. Zoe shoots out the lights to stop this trick from happening again. The 4 keep fighting until they are interrupted by Hyusei. No one wins this phase. Phase 4 happens during phase 3. Emma shoots at Betsuyaku, but he blocks with an escudo. Hyusei traps Betsuyaku with 2 escudos before he and Yuma kill him. Phase 5 begins when Hyusei uses escudo to separate Kageura from the others, making a 2v1. Hyusei uses techniques like feinting a kogetsu to use bullets and delaying bullets. Kageura fights with his side effect combined with his mantis attacks and scorpion defense. Kageura does fine until he is assaulted by the delayed bullets. This phase is won by Yuma and Hyusei. Zoe interrupts and begins phase 6. He is quickly taken down by Hyusei's escudo and Yuma's grasshoppers and scorpion. Kageura bails out due to Trion leakage. Yuma and Hyusei win this phase. Phase 7 is Yuma, Hyusei, and Mikumo versus Ko and Kuruma. During the firefight, Hyusei makes walls and Ko cuts them down using whirlwind. Hyusei feints an escudo while Yuma hides a grasshopper for his ally. When he gets close, Hyusei emits an escudo from Ko to hit Kuruma, which allows for Mikumo to ambush Kuruma. Ko throws his ray gust to save his ally and handles Yuma and Hyusei with a sick move, but Yuma's quick thinking allows Hyusei to get the kill. Meanwhile, Emma snipes and kills Kuruma and hits Mikumo's leg. Phase 7 is won by Tamakoma's members, though Emma walks away with a kill too. Phase 8 starts with Ko Arai and Okudera pressing Emma. The latter jumps off the edge, but he's put in a position that allows Azuma to snipe him and earn a point. Azuma's squad wins this phase. Phase 9 starts with Azuma placing decoys. Chika counters by launching a large meteor, which kills Okudera. Yuma goes to protect Chika, while Hyusei stays to fight. He chases Ko Arai, but Azuma draws his attention using a decoy bagworm and snipes him. After earning a point and avoiding fire from Chika, Azuma's squad bails out. Azuma's squad wins this phase, but Tamakoma's squad wins the entire match. Now for the strategy. This fight was bound to be amazing because it had 4 stylish and eye-catching combatants: Yuma, Hyusei, Kageura, and Ko. Ko's use of his black kogetsu combined with the light switches was simple but genius. It's a great use of trigger customization in the battlefield. The way Hyusei uses escudo throughout the fight is like no other and makes him stand out. He traps enemies between 2, he uses it to jump like a grasshopper, he feints using it by touching the ground, he singles out combatants by blocking off exits, and he shoots them out of his opponents to attack an ally. Hyusei does other clever things like hiding his bullets, delaying them, and not curving them to surprise future opponents. Yuma hiding his grasshopper and releasing his scorpion through anywhere on his body is smart. The second allows him to turn dismembered limbs into weapons. Kageura popping scorpions out of his body to defend along with him taking advantage of tight spaces with his mantis were clever tactics. He even used his scorpions to roll when he was too injured to move. I love his ability to perform well, even when the best fighters on the opponent's teams are targeting him. Azuma using the rules of switching weapons to create a decoy out of his bagworm was genius. Emma using the trigger's light to snipe Mikumo is a kind of attention to detail that World Trigger is amazing at. Azuma's squad forcing Emma into the open and sniping him, and Mikumo ambushing Kurama were great uses of positioning in these grand fights. The final exchange between Ko and the duo was genius. Ko's decision to cut both of his opponents with one slash was spectacular, and Yuma using the escudo that Hyusei had created on Ko to change the direction of his attack was magnificent. That was easily my favorite scene from the entire fight. This battle had 9 phases in 8 chapters, making the pacing extremely good. The plethora of combatants definitely helped in keeping the phases moving. I could easily split the battle into even more phases based on the small changes in tactics. The fight took advantage of the power system, the setting, team positioning, psychological battles, and close quarter strategies. If you want to tell someone why they should watch or read World Trigger, just show them this fight, because this is easily the greatest fight in the anime and manga so far.
Sasuke vs Danzo is a fight that is balanced out incredibly well, and by this I mean the stellar choreography and intense action doesn't override the emotional tension between these two characters. At the very start of this arc, Sasuke had his eyes set on Danzo, like a hawk who's continuously stalking his prey till it gets cornered, and it's rather fitting that Sasuke had changed his name to Team Taka for this section of the story. As compared to when he was under the name of Team Hebi, Sasuke took the time to be careful with the prey he was stalking, just like a snake would. He was gathering information while trying to not stand out too much, yet with his change to Taka, it's a completely different story as he dives headfirst into the Kage summit. His hatred for Danzo had clouded his way of thinking rationally, which gets demonstrated numerous times through Sasuke abandoning his teammates to Karen literally saying he isn't the same Sasuke as before. We as the audience are slowly watching a new monster being built in front of us, both symbolically and literally through Sasuke's Susanoo continuously evolving the more he progresses through this arc. On the opposite side of things, we have Danzo, trying to escape from this reality where the spotlight shines on him to reveal all of the secrets he's been hiding in the dark. Danzo has always been a character who behaves like a rat, only rising up to the surface from the depths of the foundation when it benefits him only. But now that he's taken that next step as Hokage, he gets a rude awakening from Sasuke on how it isn't so easy anymore to run away from the sins that he's committed. Once the two characters come face to face again for what will be their final fight, Danzo sets the tone of the conflict straight away by revealing his arm filled with Sharingan eyes. No words need to be said in this moment to honestly display how much of a power move and a threat this is to Sasuke. Danzo showing the eyes of his slaughtered clan right in front of him, as you could only imagine the amount of anger building up in Sasuke at this current moment. It also pretty much confirms that Danzo played a part in the Uchiha massacre straight away, rather than waiting to find an answer at the very end of the fight. But for Sasuke, this still wasn't good enough. He wanted to hear it all, right from the source himself, how his brother was ordered to take on this heavy cruel burden of killing his own clan in cold blood. And Danzo cracks quite quickly, and I'm not just talking about his bones being crushed by Sasuke's Susanoo, but when it came to spurting out his confidential information. It honestly continues the theme of how Danzo doesn't like getting pushed into a corner with nowhere to run, yet he still holds close to his vile mindset and a way of thinking, which is shown through this sentence alone. But Itachi, by revealing his secret to you, finally truly betrayed Konoha. That is a wild statement to make, considering we know all of the hardships Itachi has had to deal with throughout his life. So this comment from an old man who has always harbored a grudge against the Uchiha gives him that small taste of satisfaction where he no longer feels bad spitting upon Itachi's name. But of course, this was Sasuke's breaking point, clenching Danzo to death like a cockroach. However, this only marked the start of the end when it came to this battle of illusions.
Sasuke gets a lot of amazing fights, especially in part 2. Sasuke vs Danzo is one of them. It is a fast-paced and tactical battle that really shows off the strength of chakra as a power system. As usual, I'll start with the phases and then go into the strategies. Phase 1 starts with Danzo punching Sasuke and the latter blocking with his Susanoo. Sasuke crushes him in his avatar's hands, but Danzo appears behind him and attacks with a kunai. This doesn't work and Sasuke kills him again. Danzo appears elsewhere, and Sasuke continues to attack. He finally decides to end the phase with the Matarasu, killing Danzo. Sasuke wins this phase. Phase 2 starts with Danzo alive again, and spitting bullets of wind at his opponent. Sasuke falls off the edge while dodging, and summons a hawk to save himself. He flies in, dodges a wind attack, and the two strike each other. Danzo chokes Sasuke, but Sasuke cuts through him, winning the phase. Phase 3 starts with Danzo coming back to life again. Sasuke starts with an Itachi Genjutsu, and tries to attack from behind. but he's paralyzed by a curse mark that Danzo had placed on him before. Danzo tries to kill Sasuke with his own sword, but Sasuke fires up his Susanoo, forcing his opponent back, ending phase 3. This phase ends in a draw. Phase 4 starts with Sasuke Susanoo going from its level 1 skeletal form to its level 2 humanoid form. This form comes with a bow and arrow and begins firing at Danzo. The Hokage candidate evades the arrows with his tree and his Izanagi. He fires a wind jutsu at the Susanoo, but it's not effective. This phase has no winner. Phase 5 starts with Danzo summoning Baku. The summoning begins as vacuum suction, forcing Sasuke to stay in place. Danzo helps by getting behind and spitting a wind jutsu to push Sasuke into Baku's mouth. The attack rips apart the level 2, revealing the skeleton underneath. Sasuke counters by spitting fireballs into the monster's mouth, stopping its suction and unsummoning it. Then, his Susanoo punches Danzo away. Sasuke wins this phase. Phase 6 is the final one. Sasuke has figured out Danzo's Izanagi, but his Susanoo is wearing off. He kills Danzo one more time before deactivating the avatar and engaging him in close range. He throws shurikens, but Danzo deflects with a kunai. After ensuring that he has one more Izanagi left, the two engage with wind and lightning blades. They both stab each other, but Sasuke's attack is more fatal. Danzo believes he's won, but Sasuke reveals that he casted a genjutsu to make him think that he still had one more Izanagi left to use when he was really out. The battle goes from 476 to 480, which is 5 chapters. That means the fight had a rate of at least 1 phase per chapter. This means that each chapter was introducing new strategies to the battle and ensured that it never stagnated. Speaking of strategies, this battle is packed with them. The biggest factor that made this battle creative was Danzo's Izanagi. He had an ability that allowed him to quickly rewrite reality anytime it was disadvantageous to him. This was not only creative, but well balanced. Such a powerful ability could have easily been broken in the hands of an average rider, but this battle made sure to include cons. Danzo had a visible limit to the amount of charges he had to use. Additionally, the jutsu had a time limit. These weaknesses were taken advantage of excellently, but I'll go into that later. Overall, the mystery of this jutsu was amazing because it made Danzo seem invincible. The way the characters slowly peel back the layers and weaknesses is also spectacular. Another thing that was interesting was the leveling up of Susanoo. We already saw what it looked like maxed out with Itachi, so seeing Sasuke progress through the levels during this battle and arc was reminiscent of Naruto and Sasuke's first fight in the valley. He starts with just the ribcage, which was unlocked during his interruption of the summit, and he ascends to the skeleton after grabbing Danzo. Then in phase 3, he levels up to the humanoid form. Phase 5 also revealed that Susanoo's back is its weakness. This is a necessary weakness for a broken power that is sadly never brought up again. From an outworld perspective, Danzo's ability to escape death with the Izanagi allowed Sasuke to go all out with his Susanoo, which was a nice sight to see. He didn't have to hold back to extend the fight. Now for the smaller strategies. Sasuke using the blood from Danzo's wind to summon his hawk was very clever, and so was his decision to save himself from falling with the flying summoning. Danzo's choke being revealed as a setup for his curse mark was fantastic strategizing. While the curse mark itself was an ass pull, the way the characters are shown to be planning moves several steps in advance really adds to the spectacle of the fight. Sasuke does the same thing. During phase 3, he casts a genjutsu before getting paralyzed. At the moment, it's just an attempt to finish the battle, but by the end, it is revealed to be Sasuke testing the waters to see if genjutsu was effective against his opponent, and it was. And in the final phase, after uncovering Izanagi's secrets, he uses a simple genjutsu to trick Danzo into thinking that his eye is still open. Danzo using the tree to move himself to save up his Izanagi was smart. His Baku and Windblade combo was also genius, and as was Sasuke's quick response with fire.
The ending to this conflict is by far the most interesting, as it's very different to how other fights in the series play out. Danzo has run out of options and is once again pushed into a corner, and it's fitting how his lack of experience with the Sharingan caused this. Danzo continued using Izanagi hastily at every opportunity he could, as Sasuke was easily able to take advantage of his rather poor use of it through examples mentioned before, like tricking Danzo into believing he had one extra eye left. It makes Sasuke's line of him saying, "Now that's battling with your eyes, do not mock the Uchiha," all the more powerful of a statement, demonstrating how truly big of a gap there is between them both. And now that Danzo has no safe haven to return to, he looks for the next best possible solution that could grant him an opportunity to be free from this mess, and he does this by taking a hostage. Not much needs to be said here, as even Sasuke himself points out how ironic of a situation this is, seeing one who praised the act of self-sacrifice taking a hostage, as while Danzo does say he doesn't consider his life precious, dangerous, he believes he should still be alive as only he can reform the shinobi world. Yet this doesn't go quite the way Danzo had envisioned, as Sasuke strikes an attack through both Karin and Danzo, in a way using Danzo's own words against him, where he saw a sacrifice was necessary for this moment and took it. We then get this really great scene of Sasuke slowly following a limping Danzo, watching his prey squirm and struggle, all while a smile is plastered over his face. It may be a brief moment, but it's enough for Sasuke to finally see the one responsible behind the pain and suffering get a taste of their own medicine, as the past, aka Sasuke, has finally caught up to Danzo. And speaking of the past, we see a really neat flashback which ties up some of Danzo's beliefs, this especially being the case for finding the right moment to die. As we've seen in this fight, Danzo desperately does not want to die till he finds the right moment, and in this flashback we see that from how he hesitates to put himself forward to be a diversion. It's one thing to say in your mind you'll do something, but it's a completely different story to have that conviction both through mind and action. However, someone who did have that type of conviction was Sarutobi, resulting in him always being one step ahead of Danzo, this including being Hokage. And because of this small recollection of the past Danzo has, he believes he has found his place to die, even if it wouldn't be as impactful of a sacrifice compared to his teacher, the second Hokage, and his friend through Sarutobi. He had the conviction he needed, which results in his very own sacrifice. And while this does nothing to stop Sasuke and the masked man, it does something for Danzo in regards to himself. It showed a strong, mighty conviction for once. Unfortunately for Danzo, he was locked into a battle with a boy who, from the very start, had an unwavering headstrong goal that had no intention of stopping till his destination was reached.
This battle is one of Naruto's styles of writing fights, which I call the chess style. Fights like Lee vs Gaara and Naruto vs Sasuke are brawl style fights. In brawl style, the characters adopt a strategy or power up in a phase and beat up their opponent with it. There's a lot of close quarters combat in those battles, but in chess style, most of the attacks are like moves to either test out something or to try and end the battle. You'll rarely see combos or quick exchanges of blows. Most of the attacks are either a jutsu, weapon, or attack intended to wrap up the fight or counter the opponent. These fights involve a lot of planning, and each attack feels like a chess move. They have a more cerebral appeal, rather than a spectacle one. In conclusion, the combination of a good phase per chapter ratio and the excellent strategies made this one of the best fights in Naruto. This video featured Mike Yubi. Big thanks to him. Please check out his channel after this. Yusuke vs Toguro is the final fight of the Dark Tournament saga and arguably the best fight in Yu Yu Hakusho. In this video, I will be breaking down the components that make this fight legendary. For the build-up and emotion, Yusuke and Kuwabara had defeated Toguro and his brother before, and it seemed like that was the end for them. But soon after, Toguro appears before Yusuke to show off a little bit of his real power, and it is revealed that the former was holding back and intentionally threw their fight. This show of strength displays the large gap in power in between the two, and makes us feel the same amount of fear that Yusuke does. Toguro forces Yusuke to join the Dark Tournament by threatening to kill him and those close to him. After multiple matches and deadly training with Genkai, Yusuke is getting stronger. Between tournament matches, Toguro and Genkai fight and the latter is killed, dying in Yusuke's arms. Seeing his master killed by Toguro understandably makes the upcoming battle between the two extremely personal. In the finals, Toguro and Yusuke are the last to fight. Has Yusuke become strong enough to face the menacing Toguro? The final piece of emotional weight comes towards the end of this fight. The first phase of the fight is a hand-to-hand battle between the two combatants. This phase gives Yusuke a chance to show that he has closed the gap between the two a little. Even though they don't seem to have an effect, Yusuke is getting some attacks in while managing to dodge all of Toguro's. This puts the viewers at ease because Yusuke is fighting on par with Toguro to a degree. At the end of this phase, Yusuke appears behind Toguro and blasts him with a large spirit gun that the latter is unable to block, giving us a false sense of security. The second phase of the battle starts with Toguro revealing that he was unharmed by the blast. Toguro proceeds to expanding his energy, which begins to cut Yusuke. Yusuke then decides to take off his spirit cuffs, revealing that he was holding back. Yusuke's arrogance in fighting Toguro, who we were previously led to believe completely outmatched Yusuke, yet again gives the viewers more confidence in our protagonist. This confidence is reinforced with Yusuke's speed and strength. Yusuke is fast enough to disappear from Toguro's sight and is now able to harm him with his strength, whereas his attacks in the previous phase had no effect.
Yusuke is completely wiping the floor with Toguro in this phase. But that all changes in the third phase when Toguro goes into what he claims to be 100%. He is able to fire shockwaves from his thumb by flicking, knocking Yusuke back. He can now even stop a punch with just his thumb. Toguro is overpowering Yusuke, and it shows when he breaks Yusuke's arm and tanks his spirit gun. This phase causes the audience to fear for Yusuke's life, especially when Toguro knocks Yusuke out of the ring. Towards the end, Yusuke starts making a minor comeback when he gets angry, but it still isn't enough. The final piece of emotional weight makes its appearance when Genkai tells Toguro to kill one of Yusuke's friends in order to bring out his true power. When Toguro chooses Kuwabara, Yusuke and the audience feel the same amount of fear. Kuwabara is the comic relief character and has been clearly shown to be the weakest and least superhuman out of Yusuke's team. He loses a lot of his fights and barely makes it through the ones that he wins. So when Toguro decides to kill him, we know that Kuwabara doesn't stand a chance and begin to question his survival. Yusuke tries to stop Toguro, but he isn't strong enough to even stall his walking towards Kuwabara. And when Kuwabara shows his confidence and gives his speech, it's tragically motivating and emotional because we know he's gonna die, but he isn't afraid of it. Toguro kills him without a challenge, and Kuwabara's death leads us into the fourth phase of the battle. The phase begins with Yusuke releasing his true power that hid deep within him, blocked off by his emotions. We feel Yusuke's sadness and rage. Yusuke gets another boost in speed and power. Yusuke is yet again able to disappear from Toguro's sight with his speed. He shows off his power by stopping Toguro's arm with one hand and landing a punch to the face that breaks the latter's neck. His spirit gun is also a lot stronger, being visibly bigger and pushing Toguro to the wall, even flying far outside of the arena. This phase puts Yusuke back on top and restores our confidence. The final phase begins with Toguro putting his neck back in place and revealing that he wasn't at 100%. As Toguro goes all out and reaches 100%, Yusuke charges his last spirit gun, bringing us to the conclusion. Yusuke fires his last shot and Toguro charges into it head on. Initially, Yusuke is pouring his energy into the shot as Toguro is struggling to hold the blast, but Yusuke runs out of energy and falls down. This causes our hope to dip, but only by a little, because Toguro is still unable to free himself from the blast. Our last embers of hope are put into the spirit gun defeating Toguro, but are crushed by him along with the spirit gun as the crowd states that the fight is over. This moment geniusly tricks us into believing that Yusuke had lost, but when Toguro's body starts to break, it is revealed that he had used up all of his energy. His body shatters and falls to the ground as our faith in Yusuke is yet again restored. Toguro is dead and Yusuke is victorious, giving the battle a nice conclusion. When the fight ends, Kuwabara gets back up and it is revealed that he faked his death to help Yusuke unleash his true power. Other than the obviously cool physical battle, this fight is brilliant because it finds great and realistic ways to switch the tides of the battle, causing the emotions of the audience to fluctuate. The battle being made personal in 3 different ways was a beneficial choice, with Yusuke's friends and family being on the line, Toguro killing Genkai, and Toguro later killing Kuwabara. Togashi increases our desire to see Yusuke put an end to Toguro once and for all. Togashi also manages to make us feel the same emotions that Yusuke and the crowd feel while the fight goes down, whether it be fear or hope. Having Yusuke grow during the fight also makes this battle all the more important to the overall story. Having Kuwabara fake his death is also a nice addition, because if the comic relief had actually died, it would have been pretty dark. This fight was an epic and memorable conclusion to an epic and memorable saga. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on social media and please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content. Naruto vs Gaara is a Naruto fight that will appear in almost every fan's top 10. It has cemented itself as one of the greatest fights in anime, and rightfully so. In this video, I will be breaking down the components that make a great fight. The build-up, emotion, phases, and conclusion. For build-up, by the start of the Chunin exams arc, Sasuke has already made it clear that he was the strongest member on his squad. Lee shows up and shows Sasuke how much he has to learn. Lee easily defeats Naruto and Sasuke without any jutsu, just martial arts. During the Forest of Death, Lee comes to rescue Sakura and engages in battle with Dozu. Though he didn't win, he showed off a deadly technique and we begin to respect him as a person. For Gaara, Kabuto revealed that he had taken on B and C rank missions, along with the fact that he had never been injured on any one of them. When compared to Team 7, who almost died on their first C rank mission, this gives us a sense of how dangerous he is. During the Forest of Death, first Akamaru is scared of him, and then the entire Team 8 is when they witness him crush his surrendering opponents to death after blocking all of their attacks. Gaara and his squad are also the first ones to pass the Forest of Death, and they do it way before anyone else does. At this point, Gaara and Lee are some of the stronger ninjas taking the exam. For emotion, Rock Lee has one of the most tragic backstories in Naruto. In a world where everyone can at least pull off some kind of jutsu, Lee was physically unable to. Unlike Guy, who just sucked at it, Lee was literally incapable of using ninjutsu or genjutsu. He was put at a major disadvantage, but he never gave up. He would always train, but never reach the short goals he gave himself. After graduating from the academy, his dream was to show the world that he could become a great ninja without using ninjutsu or genjutsu. In his squad, he was always overshadowed by Neji. During missions and sparring, Lee began to doubt himself, but Guy told him that he had a special ability of persistence and began to personally train him. After his training, Lee became the taijutsu master that he is now. In the preliminaries of the exams, Lee and Gaara are pitted against each other. When the battle begins, Lee attacks Gaara with his taijutsu, but Gaara defends himself with his sand. The first phase has Lee struggling to harm his opponent, while he is also forced to dodge Gaara's attacks. When Sakura asks why he doesn't try something else, it is finally revealed that Lee can only do taijutsu. Gaara stays stationary during this encounter because his sand is automatic, putting the crowd in awe. In the second phase, Guy gives Lee permission to open the gates. In one of Naruto's greatest scenes, Lee drops his training weights and opens the first gate. This greatly increases his speed, and Gaara's sand defense is unable to keep up. Lee gets his first hits during this phase. This phase ramps up the intensity by turning around a previously hopeless situation. The ultimate underdog is showing the fruits of perseverance. Eventually, Lee's clean hits are downplayed and undercut when it is revealed that Gaara has a second defense, his sand armor. Lee's hits are shown to have no effect, so he decides to use the Lotus that was seen against Dozu. Gaara isn't sent up with the first kick, so Lee lets loose a combo of kicks that send Gaara airborne before ending the phase with primary Lotus. The third phase begins with the devastating reveal that Gaara substituted and Lee wasted his technique on an empty sand shell. Because opening the gates causes immense strain on the body, Lee is unable to move and is brutally toyed with by Gaara. After taking a lot of damage, Lee gets back up with a smile on his face and begins to dodge again. Lee opened the second gate, and the 8 gates are explained. The fourth phase begins with Lee opening the third and fourth gate. With blinding speed, Lee bypasses Gaara's sand shield yet again to launch him into the air. As Gaara's sand comes to protect him, Lee uses Hidden Lotus and begins to pummel his opponent around the arena without letting him touch the ground. Lee's speed and strength are greatly increased, and our underdog is back on top. Neji, the rival that Lee could never beat before, is now impressed by his new technique. Right before Lee delivers the final 2 blows, he opens the 5th gate. The strain Lee is putting on his body is visually displayed by his red skin, popping veins, creaking bones, and the struggle to clench his fist. Lee lands his final strike, but before they hit the ground, Gaara turns his gourd to sand and uses it to break his fall. When Lee finishes, his body is completely done and in no shape to fight. In the 5th phase, Gaara somehow has enough chakra in him to fight. With Sand Coffin, Gaara breaks the defenseless Lee's arm and leg along with his dreams of ever becoming a ninja again. In the conclusion, Guy saves Lee before Gaara can kill him with his sand, disqualifying Lee. This is a crushing defeat because the underdog, who was always a failure, put 200% into this fight and pushed his body to the limit to win, and just when we thought he had, his opponent gets back up and nearly kills him. To pull on our heartstrings even more, Lee stands back up, unconscious, with his leg broken, but still ready to fight. Even though he lost, he accomplished his dream during this fight by proving that he truly was a splendid ninja without ninjutsu or genjutsu. This fight is so legendary because it is the biggest underdog fight in anime. In a sense, Lee was physically disabled, being unable to do something that everyone else could, but he still gave the strongest and most talented ninja in the exams hell, almost defeating him with pure taijutsu. This battle really promotes Naruto's themes of hard work can surpass natural talent, and is why it will always be in my top 10 fights. Thank you for watching, follow me on Twitter, like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content.
Accelerator vs Kakine is one of the greatest fights in the Toaru series, and it's sad to see how underrated it is. In this video, I will analyze the qualities that make this fight great. I'll start with the phases. The first phase is based around Kakine showing off his abilities. Accelerator attacks with tornadoes, but Kakine is able to block them with his angelic wings. He then explains how his abilities work, before using sunlight, wind, and his wings to damage his opponent. Kakine wins this phase. The second starts with Accelerator retaliating. The two send attacks at each other on equal footing before messing up the city even more. This phase ends out on a draw. The third and final phase begins with Accelerator revealing that he was moving debris during their battle in order to protect civilians. Both combatants attack each other and create a shockwave. Once it clears, it is shown that Accelerator has won. In the light novel, he takes control of his opponent's wings and stabs him with it. The fight is short, but filled with so many details. To explain, Accelerator's ability gives him the power to control vectors. This was established in the first arc he appeared. Nearly all attacks that came his way were automatically reflected, but this fight expands upon the fine details of his ability and has his opponent exploit them. While we were never explicitly told this, it is shown that Accelerator doesn't reflect everything. For example, he obviously has to eat food to survive, and we have seen him touch and carry objects or people without reflecting them. This fight goes into more detail and explains that there are things that Accelerator unconsciously doesn't reflect because he doesn't perceive them as harmful. Kakine brought up sunlight and wind as examples, so his strategy was to attack his opponent with things that the latter filtered as harmless. How he accomplished this was using his own ability. In simple terms, his power, dark matter, allows him to create matter that doesn't exist until he creates it, and matter that doesn't exist operates under rules that don't exist. This allows him to do things such as making sunlight harmful. This strategy allowed him to take the first phase. The second phase doesn't have too much strategy. It is mostly the two just sending attacks at each other. But in the final phase, Accelerator not only shows that he has been in control, but also gains a grasp on his opponent's ability. While it is a little vague, there is a valid explanation. Accelerator uses the laws of physics for his vector calculations, so when he faced attacks that broke those laws, his defense was broken. But by the end of the fight, he adds Kakine's powers into his own vector calculation, thus allowing him to manipulate his opponent's wings. Creative thinking like this is why I love this battle and Toaru. The author created one detailed ability, and then created another ability designed to target the weaknesses of the first ability. That was the perfect recipe for an amazing fight, especially since the user of the first ability still found a way to overcome the hurdle. The way the pendulum of the phases swung from Kakine's favor to Accelerator's also kept the fight very interesting. Even the individual attacks are epic. Everything just comes together so nicely. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Uzui versus Daki and Gyutaro is the main fight in the Red Light District arc. It is the best fight in the entire manga, and I'll break it down. I'll start with the phases and then move to the strategy. The fight starts in chapter 76. Phase 1 starts with Daki attacking Tanjiro. Daki uses her sash powers while Tanjiro uses water breathing. The phase ends when Tanjiro notices that his sword is chipped. This phase has no winner, but Daki has the advantage. In phase 2, Tanjiro uses Hinokami Kageura after realizing his limits with water breathing. He starts taking the advantage. In phase 3, Inosuke frees Uzui's wives and fights the Obi sash. The wives, Zenitsu, and Uzui all eventually join. After this, Daki powers up by returning her Obi to her. In phase 4, Tanjiro responds by entering the zone in a rage and dominating her. He almost kills her, but the phase ends with Tanjiro gasping for breath and running out of stamina. Tanjiro won this phase. Phase 5 starts with Nezuko kicking Daki. She continues powering up through anger and dominates the battle with her kicks and fast regeneration. Tanjiro stops Nezuko before she attacks civilians. The phase ends with Uzui beheading Daki. Nezuko won this phase. Phase 6 is Uzui vs Gyutaro. Uzui uses his swords and bombs, while Gyutaro uses his sickles and blood art. The phase ends with no winner when Daki joins her brother. Phase 7 has the Sound Pillar handling the duo for a short amount of time before Tanjiro joins.
Phase 8 and 9 happen concurrently. Phase 8 is Tanjiro and Uzui versus Gyutaro, and Phase 9 is Zenitsu and Inosuke versus Daki. Uzui and Tanjiro protect each other and attack in tandem. In the middle of the phase, one of Uzui's wives fires poisoned kunai at the demon, numbing him. When the two are about to kill him, Gyutaro is able to survive and single out Uzui. No one won Phase 8. Meanwhile, Daki's fight comes to Tanjiro. Phase 9 had no winner either. Phase 10 is the trio versus Daki. Their plan is to have Inosuke charge at the demon while Zenitsu and Tanjiro protect him. The phase ends when Inosuke lops off her head, giving the trio the win. Inosuke is surprise attacked by the brother and Uzui is down. This is the start of Phase 11. Tanjiro fights Gyutaro with the poison kunai and his katana. Zenitsu faces off against the sister in Phase 12. The two demon slayers try to behead their opponents, but are unable to. The phase ends when their allies join, Uzui for Tanjiro and Inosuke for Zenitsu. These phases go to the slayers. Phase 13 is Uzui and Tanjiro versus Gyutaro, and Phase 14 is Zenitsu and Inosuke versus Daki. Uzui uses his musical score to respond to the demon. Tanjiro powers up with his Demon Slayer mark when going for the kill. Meanwhile, Inosuke cuts a distracted Daki's obi when Zenitsu cuts her neck. Inosuke joins the beheading, and the trio successfully cut off the demon siblings' heads. The power system in this manga is pretty simple, but there are still some pretty cool moments of strategy. Tanjiro deciding to focus on single powerful strikes with Hinokami Kageura was a nice moment that added layers to the level of water-breathing skill and the difference between styles. Tanjiro using after images with this style was also a cool trick. Tanjiro mixing water and fire styles for enhanced speed in Phase 8 was amazing. Nezuko's solidified blood, Uzui holding the tip of his sword for extended reach, Daki biting Uzui's blade, and Inosuke moving his heart were all smart and creative. Finally, the strategy in Phase 10 to protect Inosuke so he can focus on offense was epic. The fight was amazing because of how frequently the phases were changing and how many there were. There were 14 phases from chapter 76 to 94. This kept the fight refreshing, exciting, and fast-paced. Another thing that makes Kimetsu fights great in general is the amount of damage and the desperation. The characters always feel like the next hit they take can kill them. As I explained in my video on the power system, their powers take up a lot of stamina, so they have to finish the fights as soon as possible, adding to the desperation. Tanjiro is frequently running out of breath, leaving viewers questioning how he'll recover. The damage they take is also a lot. Daki's first attack when she got white hair, Nezuko being chopped up by Daki, and Tanjiro having the bottom of his mouth stabbed were all brutal moments. This level of damage adds to the gravity of the situation. Ichigo vs Byakuya is a quick fight packed with many phases. Like most of the fights in the Soul Society arc, it is great. Phase 1 starts with the two exchanging a few blows. Both fighters are on equal footing and no one wins. Phase 2 starts with Byakuya using his Shikai and Ichigo retaliating with Getsuga Tensho. Byakuya quickly switches to his Bankai, which is too much for Getsuga's. Byakuya wins this phase and Ichigo responds with his Bankai, taking the fight into Phase 3. In this phase, Ichigo's strategy is to use his super speed to defend and dodge Byakuya's petals. Ichigo is too fast and gets the drop on Byakuya twice. The second time, Byakuya is forced to catch his opponent's sword with his hand. Ichigo wins this phase, but backs away as Byakuya uses Senkei, starting Phase 4. The two start off even, but Byakuya starts moving faster than Ichigo, and combined with his multiple swords, Ichigo is no match. Before his opponent can land a final blow, Hollow Ichigo shows up. Apparently, Ichigo's inexperience with his Bankai was slowing him down, but Hollow knows how to use his Bankai better, attacking Byakuya with speed and unpredictability. Eventually, Ichigo rips off the mask, and the battle enters the 5th phase, where both combatants unleash one final attack. Both are injured, but Byakuya's blade was destroyed, giving Ichigo the win. The fight is pretty short, but is one of the best that Bleach has to offer. The build-up to this fight along with the ideological battle about traditions was very well written. The various phases were also very well constructed, giving a clear winner and valid reason for their victory. Phase 1 is a simple intro. In Phase 2, Byakuya's strategy of overwhelming Ichigo with his petals overpowered the latter's Getsugas. In Phase 3, Ichigo's Bankai gave him speed that outpaced the petals. In Phase 4, Ichigo's pressure started slowing him down, and Byakuya's new move gave him a brief advantage. And then Hollow's Bankai mastery and unpredictability caught Byakuya off guard. While it is not entirely clear why Byakuya's blade broke, and Ichigo's didn't, one fighter's blade shattering is a good enough reason for why they lost. I do want to address some of the power-ups. Ichigo's Getsuga was new, but we saw him use it against Kisuke before. As I said in another video, a character in Bleach having a Shikai or Bankai is almost never an ass pull, especially for captains. So Byakuya's Bankai, though a surprise, was a justified power-up. Ichigo's Bankai was also seen being trained for, so his power-up was justified. Senkei and Shuke are a little different. Having a Bankai is one thing, but having different forms of the Bankai is not something to be expected. Senkei is completely fair, because all Byakuya is doing is compiling all of his petals into an individual katana. Shuke condenses all of the petals' cutting power into one blade, which doesn't really make sense, but it is not that offensive. It is once again Byakuya using his petals in a different way, and the lack of logic luckily doesn't negatively affect the fight. Hollow Ichigo being able to possess Ichigo was not something that we knew about, but Hollow existing inside of Ichigo, and knowing how to use Zangetsu better was definitely conveyed to us. When they first fought inside of Zangetsu's world, Hollow could use the Shikai better than Ichigo, so why wouldn't he be able to use the Bankai better? So all of the power-ups in this fight make sense. All of this comes together to make Bleach's best fight. Naruto vs Pain is one of the best fights in Naruto, and in this video, I'll break down why. In the first phase, Naruto kills the Ashura path and fights the summonings alongside the toads. Phase 1 ends when Naruto uses Frog Kumite in order to kill the Predator path. Phase 2 starts with Naruto using Rasen Shuriken. He kills the human path with this attack. As Sage Mode runs out, the toads help him trap and kill the animal path, ending Phase 2. Phase 3 starts with Naruto and Deva path using Taijutsu, while Naruto's first clone is summoned. Once Naruto transforms, he throws another Rasen Shuriken, but it's absorbed by the Predator path that he'd already killed. Naruto uses his transformation strategy to take the Predator out of the picture, but Deva regains his jutsu in time to block. Naruto reveals his true target when he kills Naraka with a surprise attack. Phase 4 starts with Deva pushing back the Narutos. The toads try to fight him, but they are also pushed away. Naruto gets pulled in and Predator sucks the chakra out of him. Naruto counters by giving his opponent more nature energy, which turns him into a stone frog. Phase 4 ends with Fukasaku getting stabbed and Naruto getting pinned to the ground. Phase 5 is when Naruto enters the six-tailed form and attacks Deva relentlessly. Naruto starts off winning this phase. The phase ends with Deva trapping Naruto in planetary devastation. Phase 6 starts off with some taijutsu exchanges. Naruto uses the Shadow Shuriken technique with his Rasengans to make Pain use up his almighty push. Two clones that were disguised as rocks also appear to hold him down. Pain reacts by stabbing the clones and jumping over the second attack. The countdown before his almighty push recharges continues as all of the rocks and rubble are revealed to be transformed Naruto clones. Pain's jutsu makes it in the nick of time and blows all the clones away, but Naruto has even more clones pushing him forward to keep him in place. The battle ends with Naruto's clones throwing him into Pain to kill him with a Rasengan. Naruto wins phases 1, 2, and 3. Pain wins phases 4 and 5, and Naruto wins phase 6. This fight is easily one of the best in Naruto. It has 6 different phases that are all littered with Chakra's finest strategies. But before I go into strategies, I need to break down what allows these strategies to even exist, and that is weaknesses and drawbacks. Nearly every single jutsu in this battle had a drawback that could be exploited. Almighty Push was Pain's strongest attack, but it had a 10-second cooldown, and the even stronger version had an even longer cooldown. Naruto took advantage of this weakness several times. The next powerful jutsu was Sage Mode. There are so many ways Sage Mode could have been made overpowered, but Kishimoto expertly placed limits. First, it had a time limit. Naruto could only do a few attacks before running out. Naruto countered this by having clones charge nature energy. This detail could have easily been exploited to give Naruto an infinite amount of Sage stocks, but Kishimoto made it so that Naruto could only have 2 charging up at max. While I really don't like how some of the animal path summonings can keep regenerating with no drawback, there is still the fact that if the user dies, the summoning disappears, and that's what happens in this fight. Now for strategy. Unlike most other fights, the phases aren't defined by one strategy, because Naruto uses several per phase. Naruto's overall game was to kill the paths one by one. One way he accomplished this by simply blitzing a path in 1v1 combat and killing them. He killed Ashura and Predator like this. Another strategy was not only throwing the Rasengan, but expanding it. The next was having Gamakichi capture a path in his mouth as Naruto beats them up and kills them in the dark. After reviving Predator, Pain's strategy is to absorb Naruto's jutsu. Naruto realizes that one of the Pains can revive and decides to target him after diverting their attention. After creating a smokescreen, he geniusly transforms into a Rasen Shuriken to take care of the Predator. His second attack is blown away, but this is enough time for him to strike his true target with a surprise attack. When Predator absorbs Naruto's chakra, he intelligently feeds him nature energy, killing his opponent in the process.
Pain also uses strategy when he stabs Fukasaku to prevent him from using the genjutsu again. Phase 5 is mostly Naruto going berserk and Pain defending himself, but he is able to stop the fox with a powerful jutsu. In the final phase, Naruto shows so much creativity and battle IQ. He transforms his clones into rubble to surprise attack Pain. He uses the Shadow Shuriken technique to make Pain use up his push. He has more clones ambush from rocks, and finally, he has clones to hold him in place so that he can attack as soon as Pain uses up his almighty push. This fight is a great display of strategy and epic combat. The fight also has new powers, but I think they are justified. As I said in my escalation and power up video, if a character is seen training, regardless of what new ability they gain, that power is justified. So Naruto being able to throw and expand his Rasen Shuriken wasn't explicitly told to us, but the fact that he was training was more than enough to justify it. But if I want to justify it even further, I can point to Jiraiya using a giant Rasengan in Sage mode and say that changing the shape of a jutsu was shown to be a Sage mode power. For Frog Kumite, we saw a little bit of it before, but we didn't know that it could extend its attacking range. For this, I have the same argument as before. One new move that was undoubtedly explained before this battle was the Stone Frog. While he was training, we saw and were told that Naruto could turn into a stone frog if he didn't control nature energy correctly. So for Kishimoto to find a way to use that in battle was extremely clever. For the six-tailed form, we have known that Naruto can increase the amount of tails he has since the end of part 1. Throughout part 2, we've seen him enter 3 and 4 tails, and since Kurama has 9 tails, having Naruto enter 6 or 8 isn't a surprise. Another thing that adds to this fight is the great ideological battle between the two that has been covered countless times. The build-up and emotion is also great. Naruto has to come face to face with his mentor's killer and the group that left his village in shambles. All of these things are what make this fight one of the best in stories in general. Most, if not all of Ichigo's fights during and before the Soul Society arc were good, but after the Soul Society, his fights begin to take a nosedive. The reason is a combination of his moveset, his opponent's moveset, and the phases. Ichigo didn't even have a moveset until his fight with Byakuya, so the other pre-Arrancar fights relied heavily on his opponent's moveset and the phases, yet they were still good. Of course, the one fight with all three is Ichigo's best fight. Watch my video on what makes a good fight for more context on my criteria. Ichigo's first big fight that he wins is against Dordoni. In phase 1, Dordoni attacks Ichigo with speed and destroys a Getsuga Tensho. Dordoni continues to kick Ichigo around until he starts phase 2 by activating Resurrection. In phase 2, the Arrancar continues to beat up Ichigo. The phase ends with Nell saving Ichigo from Acero. Phase 3 starts with Ichigo using Bankai. The two continue fighting, but Ichigo is still on the defensive. Phase 4 lasts for a second when Ichigo puts on the mask and one-shots his opponent. Ichigo's moves in this battle are Getsuga, Bankai, and Hollow Mask. Dordoni's is his wind-based Resurrection and Sero. Neither of these are used strategically or creatively. Phase 1 and 2 are just Ichigo getting beaten up with no strategy. In phase 3, he powers up to even the playing field, and in phase 4, he powers up even more to win. Dordoni's abilities are irrelevant. All that mattered in this fight were the characters' power levels, and Ichigo won by making his level the highest. Ichigo vs Grimmjow is the next big fight. Phase 1 starts with Ichigo going Bankai and clashing. The two are mostly on par, with Grimmjow having a slight advantage. The two use some Getsugas and Zeros. The phase ends with Grimm firing a Grand Ray Zero at Orihime, and Ichigo puts on his mask to block it. Phase 2 starts with the Arrancar using Resurrection and beating up Ichigo. As the phase goes on, Ichigo evens the playing field. The phase ends when Ichigo takes shots for Orihime. Phase 3 starts with Ichigo having to reapply his mask. Grimmjow quickly takes the upper hand once again. Phase 4 starts with Orihime supporting Ichigo, which allows him to focus and heavily wound Grimmjow. The two quickly return to an even footing. The phase ends with Grimmjow using his ultimate attack and Ichigo destroying it along with Grimmjow. Ichigo's moves are the same as in the previous fight. Grimmjow's moves are a Zero and his Desgaron, both of which are basic blunt or sharp force attacks. There is nothing here that allows for strategizing or creativity. Even then, the fights could focus on the martial arts mechanics and fighting styles, but they don't. Phase 2 happens because Grimmjow powers up. Phase 3 starts because of Orihime's look. Phase 4 starts because Orihime is no longer afraid of Ichigo. Ichigo defeats Grimmjow by overpowering him. The fight is emotional, but on a technical level, there is no strategy, just power levels. Ichigo vs Ulquiorra is his next big fight. Phase 1 starts with Ichigo being on the defensive, and being able to read his opponent's attacks. He even lands the first blow, but it's ineffective. Phase 2 starts with Kageura speeding up and Ichigo barely keeping up. Orihime saves him with her shield. This phase continues with them trading blows. Phase 3 starts with the holification and Ichigo gaining the upper hand. The Arrancar begins phase 4 when he uses Resurrection and starts winning. Kageura introduces his lance and Black Zero in this phase. Ichigo continues to get whooped and Kageura releases the second stage, starting phase 5. Now, Ichigo is getting destroyed. The phase ends with the Soul Reaper dying. Orihime's cry revives him in phase 6. In his full hollow form, he proceeds to wipe the floor with Kageura. He's faster, stronger, and has Zero. Kageura brings out a stronger Zero, but Ichigo just obliterates him. Out of control, he attacks Uryu and aims for Orihime, but Kageura saves them. The explosion ends the fight with Ichigo reverting to normal, and Kageura fading away. Once again, a bad fight that relies on power levels. Phase 2 starts because the Arrancar stops holding back his speed. Phase 3 starts with Ichigo powering up. Phase 4 and 5 are Kageura powering up. 6 is Ichigo powering up. Absolutely no strategy, just power levels. What enables the problem are the movesets. All of the moves on both sides are just raw power attacks. Lanza, Zero, Black Zero, and Getsuga. All of them are just fast and strong projectiles. There is no strategy required to use them. Ichigo vs Aizen is next. The two start on equal footing until Ichigo destroys a Hado and cuts Aizen. Phase 2 begins with Aizen entering another form. He is able to injure Ichigo and takes the upper hand, but Ichigo breaks free from his grasp at the end. Phase 3 starts with Ichigo becoming the Getsuga and using Mugetsu. Phase 3 ends with Ichigo losing his powers. Phase 4 is technically Kisuke capturing Aizen with his Kido, but that's not really part of the fight. Once again, the movesets are raw power attacks, and the phases change by increasing one's power level. Ichigo vs Ginjo is next. Phase 1 starts with Ichigo and Uryu fighting Ginjo on even footing. Phase 2 starts with Ichigo using Bankai. Ginjo responds using his own Bankai. The two exchange blows and Ichigo is better. After his sword is broken, Ginjo dies from his wounds. This was short, but once again, power levels are all that matter. Ichigo vs Yuha is his final major battle. Phase 1 starts with Ichigo and Orihime working together to attack Yuha. In Phase 2, Yuha powers up with the eyes and begins to damage Ichigo. After some more exchanges, Orihime buys time for Ichigo to use his Quincy powers. Phase 3 starts with Ichigo using his Quincy hollow form. Ichigo now has the advantage. The phase ends with a Getsuga combined with the Grand Ray Zero. In Phase 4, Yuha powers up even more and starts using the Almighty to plant traps. After being on the losing side, Ichigo starts Phase 5 by using Bankai. Yuha immediately breaks it and continues to whoop Ichigo with his future powers. Even Orihime is ineffective. The phase ends with the Quincy King taking away all of Ichigo's hollow and Quincy powers. During the break, Tsukishima and Orihime work together to repair Ichigo's blade. In Phase 6, Ichigo and Renji join Aizen fighting Yuha. The trio are getting destroyed, but Aizen reveals that Yuha is under hypnosis and Ichigo cuts him in half. In Phase 7, Yuha gets back up, but Uryu shoots him with the Stiyl Silver, which works as a kryptonite. This allows Ichigo to kill him in one last swing. Mostly the same issues as before in this battle. Yuha shows a little bit of strategy when he uses the Almighty to start controlling the future in Phases 4 and 5. Phase 6 has Aizen using Kyoka Subigetsu as an effective distraction, and Phase 7 has the Stiyl Silver being an effective kryptonite. While kryptonites are bad writing, it is at least a strategy, which can't be said for the other fights. Even if there wasn't strategy being used, this fight would still be leagues above the rest due to the amount of phases. There are 7 in total, and no phase overstays its welcome. In conclusion, Ichigo's fights suck post-Soul Society because his moveset is based on raw power and speed. His opponent's movesets are also based on power and speed. The power levels mostly are the only important factor in battles, and Bleach fights usually don't take martial arts or fighting styles into account, which could have been a potential solution. The crazy part is that only Ichigo's fights are like this. The Arrancar, Fullbring, and Quincy arcs all have at least one well-written fight, if not several. From my memory, the Arrancar has Rukia's, Uryu's, and Byakuya's fights. Fullbring has Byakuya's fight, and Quincy has Rukia's, Toshiro's, Komamura's, Mayuri's, and Kisuke's fights. This problem only really applies to the protagonist. Jiraiya vs Pain is another one of Naruto's best fights, and spectacular displays of its power system and strategy. You know the drill by now. I'll analyze the phases and strategies. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. In Phase 1, the Animal Path summons a crab and Jiraiya fights back with his hair. Animal Path summons a chameleon and Jiraiya summons Gamaken to counter. the path summons even more animals and Jiraiya charges Sage Mode. Phase 1 ends when Jiraiya enters Sage Mode. Phase 2 has Shima and Fukasaku work together to kill the chameleon. Phase 3 starts when 2 more paths are summoned. Jiraiya uses ninjutsu, but Preda absorbs his attacks and Animal can defend himself with summons. The connected vision is displayed here. Phase 4 starts with Jiraiya running as the 3 come up with a plan. Their plan is effective and the 3 pains are caught in a genjutsu, allowing Jiraiya to kill them all. Jiraiya thinks the battle is over, but Phase 5 starts with a 4th pain appearing and taking off Jiraiya's arm. All 6 appear alive. The manga skips to Jiraiya getting stabbed by a rod, but the anime shows the 6-on-1 battle, and Jiraiya trapping 1 pain in a toad before hitting him with a Rasengan. Ultimately, Jiraiya is killed by the remaining 5. Now for the strategies. In Phase 1, Jiraiya is able to defeat 1 summoning on his own, but Pain responds by summoning 4 more, which Jiraiya is unable to compete with, so he stalls with Gamaken. Jiraiya wins this phase by activating Sage Mode at the end. In Phase 2, the Sage Frogs are able to hunt down and kill the invisible chameleon with their jutsu. Jiraiya wins this phase. In Phase 3, Pain gets back up. Jiraiya blinds 1 path and plans to use this to his advantage later, but the connected vision prevents him from capitalizing. Jiraiya's large jutsu are countered by Preda's absorption. The Toad Sage even uses a decoy frog to attack from behind, but the animal is able to summon an animal shield without turning due to the Rinnegan's connected vision. Because of Jiraiya's temporary retreat, the paths win this phase. In Phase 4, the 3 come up with an awesome detailed plan. Jiraiya takes into account all 3 pairs of eyes and their jutsu, while the 2 toes begin to cast their own genjutsu. First, he lures them out as his clone appears behind and spits fire. Preda moves as he planned, which blocks out 2 sets of eyes, only leaving 1 pair open. Since Pain's eyes are on him, he's able to trap 1 in his Dark Swamp jutsu, leaving only 1 left to fight him. Jiraiya also uses his knowledge of his opponent's jutsu to stop him from weaving signs to summon. After this, the illusion takes effect and paralyzes the 3, allowing them to be killed, giving Jiraiya the phase. In Phase 5, the Pain strategy is to 6v1 Jiraiya. With the lost arm and running out of chakra, Jiraiya decides to isolate 1 and kill him. He also tries to sneak attack the Ashura path with a shuriken from behind, but the connected vision allows him to dodge. The 5 remaining paths team up to stab Jiraiya, ending the fight and giving the phase to Pain. This fight had a lot of great tactics used. I especially like Jiraiya's strategies in Phase 3 and 4. He continuously found creative ways to attack his opponent from behind, and the Phase 4 strategy had so many layers that blended together perfectly. The background between Jiraiya and Pain increases the punch that this fight had. Plot twists like there being 6 Pains were really surprising, and Jiraiya being able to kill 3 paths, one of them twice, was an exciting show of his abilities. Misaka vs. Item is another one of Toaru's best fights. I'll analyze this battle by starting with the phases. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The first phase is a battle between Railgun and Frenda. The latter uses her explosive tape set up around the area along with doll bombs to attack, while Misaka defends and attacks with electromagnetism. This phase has no winner and ends when Frenda traps the 2 in a room. Phase 2 has Frenda using her tape again along with rocket bombs. Misaka continues to use magnetism to fight. The Item member moves the fight into Phase 3 when she fills the room with explosive gas. She starts winning against her opponent with hand-to-hand combat, but when Misaka starts fighting back, it's revealed that the explosive gas was a bluff. Misaka wins this phase after shocking Frenda. Phase 4 begins when reinforcements show up. Mugino fights with her lasers while Misaka fights with shocks and magnetism. During this phase, Mugino shows off the ability to reflect electric shocks. This phase ends with the rank 3 creating a smokescreen before running away from the 3-on-1. Item takes this phase. Phase 5 has Meltdowner using her teammate to track her opponent so that she can snipe her from a distance. Frenda also sets off explosives while Misaka tries to escape. During this phase, Misaka learns that she can also reflect the Meltdowner beams. Her tracker begins to get tired, so the rank 4 Esper decides to confront her opponent one-on-one, which starts Phase 6. While running around, Misaka finds some doll bombs and decides to use them. The 2 level 5s meet and start fighting. Misaka uses several bombs and Mugino uses her silicon burn attack in response. The phase ends with Mugino getting smacked in the head by a doll filled with metal, giving Misaka the win. Phase 7 starts when Railgun returns from taking care of her mission. The rank 4 continues firing, but Misaka is running out of power, so she's forced to run once again. After choosing the best escape route, she ends the battle by igniting some tape on a bridge, causing her opponent to fall while she uses magnetism to stay up. Meltdowner is still alive, but Misaka escapes unscathed, giving her the win. The strategy used in this fight is very creative. Phases 1 and 2 have both combatants mostly using their signature attacks. Frenda had great planning, having explosive tape and bombs almost everywhere, which often caught her opponent off guard. In Phase 2, she even had a stun grenade that almost gave her the fight, but Misaka's electrokinesis gave her the ability to create a map of the area using EM waves. In Phase 3, Frenda makes a very effective bluff. She throws out some actually explosive gas, but then fills the room with nitrogen gas. She then lies about it and forces the fight into a hand-to-hand one, which she mostly dominates. She quickly loses when Railgun figures out that it was just a bluff. In Phase 4, we are introduced to the fact that the Meltdowner ability can reflect the Railgun ability. This is a great setup for when the reverse happens. This is explained by their abilities functioning similarly. At the end of Phase 5, Misaka wisely makes the decision to escape since she is getting tired and facing 3 opponents on her own, but Item combines their Esper's abilities to keep her from escaping. In Phase 6, since she's running out of power, Misaka uses her opponent's dolls but fills them with metal so that she can control them. She is also able to detonate them with sparks or use them as a blunt weapon, which is what wins her this phase. Mugino reveals her silicon cards that spread out her shots, allowing her to take out multiple dolls at once. In the final phase, Misaka uses deflection once again, but she also chooses a path that takes advantage of Frenda's preparation. After leading her opponent to the bridge, she detonates it and sends her opponent falling. Like many great fights, the phases have the characters utilizing different strategies. The ones used in this battle are very creative and intelligent. The fight also has several phases, with combatants switching in and out. This allows for even more tactics to be displayed during battle. The different applications of Railgun and Meltdowner were my personal favorite parts. The concept of manipulating the other's attacks going both ways was very inventive. The rival battle between 2 level 5 Espers was also exciting. Everything just worked so well. Touma vs Stiyl is the first fight in Toaru, and it makes a really good impression. It isn't anything crazy, but it shows off a little bit of the story's creative power system and has attacks with specific weaknesses that are cleverly taken advantage of. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. In Phase 1, Touma and Stiyl meet. Stiyl uses his fire magic to attack, while Touma nullifies the flames with his Imagine Breaker. In Phase 2, Stiyl summons Inokentius, which Touma's right hand is unable to destroy. The phase ends with Stiyl attacking from both sides. Somehow, Touma escapes and begins running away. Phase 3 has the flame monster chasing Touma until he gets out of its reach. In Phase 4, Touma returns after turning on the sprinklers. The fight concludes with Touma knocking out the magician with a punch. In Phase 1, the strategies on both sides are pretty basic. Both of them simply show off their powers. Touma is able to dispel all supernatural attacks with his right hand, so Styl's fire didn't work. The phase isn't won by either side. In Phase 2, Stiyl uses his strongest spell, Inokentius, which makes the fight interesting. Touma touches it, but unlike the previous attacks, it didn't vanish. The monster is kept alive by runes being placed all over the apartment. Index tells him that the only way for it to be destroyed is to get rid of all the runes. Stiyl then attacks from both sides, forcing Touma to retreat and giving him the win. When Touma runs away in Phase 3, he sees all the runes taped to the walls on paper and written in ink. Inokentius is able to pursue his target thanks to these runes, so Touma jumps out of the apartment complex and out of the monster's range. This phase goes to neither side. Phase 4 starts with the sprinklers turning on and Touma coming back. His plan to have the water mess up the ink runes on the paper works, and allows for him to dispel Inokentius. Stiyl tries to use one last spell, but Touma rushes him and strikes him in the face, ending the fight. This fight is short but great. Each phase has its own strategy and shows the fighters are thinking and adapting to their opponent's tactics. The way the powers and their weaknesses are applied in this fight makes for a satisfying conclusion and a great battle. This is my analysis on the art from Sanji vs Mr. 2. For context on how I grade battle art, watch my Naruto vs Sasuke art analysis video. The battle starts in chapter 183. The first attack has anticipation in the attack. Oda is very good at bending and stretching his characters for exaggeration around this time. In Sanji's wind-up, his body curves smoothly in the shape of an S. This is obviously unrealistic, but One Piece's more cartoony art style allows for this to work well.
I don't think other art styles like Bleach, Naruto, or DBZ could make this work. There is also nice foreshortening from a slight ant's eye view, which can be seen in the size of the fist compared to his head. When the two strike, their legs are stretched to unnatural proportions, Sanji's leg being perfect cylinder shapes, along with a slight foreshortening from one leg to the other, makes this panel really pop. His hands in his pockets communicates his relaxed mind state. The way the ground curves is beautiful cinematography, and the poses of the two are excellent. The spacing is also perfect, with the strike taking up about half of the page. The curving floor, stretching and curving bodies, and foreshortening are Oda's strongest weapons at this time. The fight picks back up in 187. Both kicks are shown landing on the other's face in 2 close-ups, before the two blast away as follow-through. The characters are toned in the attacks to provide focus. The panel of the two crashing has a slight fisheye lens, with the floor and the background slightly curving. Mr. 2's next attack has no anticipation, but it's a nice panel with foreshortening, focus lines in the background, and good poses on both sides. Sanji has his black turn into motion lines, and even has lines coming off of his body to emphasize his movement. The next 2 panels two-step anticipation for Mr. 2's follow-up. Both have good poses and camera angles. The first is also toned. The next panel lacks clarity. I can't tell if he hit Sanji or not, but the pose and the foreshortening look good. Sanji's next kick has him winding up, but the wind-up is not in the frame. The panel of Collier landing is nice. Mr. 2's leg being closer to the camera, along with Sanji's leg getting smaller, looks amazing. The curve from Sanji's left leg to his right looks smooth. This is another display of Oda's abstraction of anatomy working in his favor. This panel has good space, taking up a third. The next 2 panels are summarizing, but this is a decent form of summarizing. The camera angles, foreshortening, poses, and spacing are still as good as if they were single attacks. There are multiple limbs along with hit marks to reiterate that they are attacking multiple times. The next page has both winding up in 2 small panels at the top. Sanji's panel, once again, has that nice cartoonish curve. His arm also has motion lines. Mr. 2's anticipation doesn't give us a good idea of what his next attack will look like. The attack panel takes up 2/3 of the page. Sanji's pose looks spectacular. His limbs curve like noodles, but that along with the way his neck hangs really sell the pose. His kicking leg foreshortens and is blurred out with motion lines to show that he's kicking several times. The multiple hit marks also help with this. The ground is curved upwards at the corner of the page, making this a low angle with a slight fisheye. Mr. 2's pose also looks great despite mostly being covered. The follow-through is 2 panels, first with a zoom out of the action, toning the characters, and then of both of them crashing into buildings from a nice angle. Sanji's next attack only has the action, but it's at a great angle. There is foreshortening on his leg, but even more so in Mr. 2. Both poses are amazing and the focus lines add energy to the panel. It takes up a third of the page, meaning it has good space. The fight resumes in 188 with Mr. 2 stepping on Sanji. The low angle of the second panel allows for nice foreshortening. 2's next 2 attacks have no anticipation, but they do have follow-through. The first attack is fine, but it isn't perfect with clarity. The second attack looks great. The speed lines in the background are empty and the trail of the kick, which looks cool. Mr. 2's pose also has beautiful foreshortening. The mascara attack has the anticipation and action in one panel, making use of after images. The attack landing has a great angle and pose from Sanji, along with focus lines. Mr. 2 winds up for 2 panels before being interrupted by Sanji. His twirling has white motion lines to help clarify his action. The panel of Sanji kicking is astounding. Sanji's arms bend and his foot stretches longer than normal. His body leaning over and his head hanging sell his beautiful pose even more. The way 2's legs are still attacking while his face is being kicked sells the fact that he was interrupted. The characters are also toned. The next panel is breathtaking. Sanji's close leg down to his back creates a nice S shape. His pose overall is epic, but the distance between his hands and his legs, along with the fact that he's performing a handstand kick, makes this exceptionally more epic. Sanji's kicking leg also has motion lines replacing the black. The background has a fisheye lens. There is blood splatter in the air, serving as a hit mark. Mr. 2 is shown crashing into a building, which along with Sanji's pose, serves as follow-through. There are also focus lines, but the way Sanji's close hand goes over them continues to highlight the distance of the objects. Mr. 2 bringing out his swans has a good angle, pose, and space. The same goes for his swan bombardier anticipation. The actual attack has a great pose. The panel has good space, Sanji's evasion has a good pose, foreshortening, and includes Oda's curves. The floor has a slight inward curve. Mr. 2's next combo has the usual suspects: foreshortening, poses, angle, focus lines, and even Oda's stretching. These attacks have no anticipation or follow through, but I can let it slide because it's a combo. The panel of the clashing has good poses. The attack has the action and follow through. Both have great poses and angles. The action panel lacks a little clarity. My first time reading this, I couldn't tell where 2's leg was because it blended in with the focus lines. Blood splatter is used as a hit mark again. Mr. 2's next attack has anticipation and action in 2 small panels, but since the attack missed, it's not much of a problem. The attack and dodge have great poses. The panel with Sanji's windup has a good angle and poses. Sanji's actual attack looks spectacular. The camera angle is next level on this one. Starting with Sanji's pose, his closed arm gets bigger and his far leg is tiny, really selling the angle and distance. His left arms and legs bending while his right arm flies back makes a dynamic pose. Mr. 2's leg is extremely close to the screen in the bottom right corner while his head is very small. The way his body bends back sells the damage received. There is a hit mark behind Sanji, which shows the gap between the landing of the attack and the aftermath. The next chapter shows the kick from a different angle, and it also looks amazing. Sanji then starts one of his signature combos. Once again, there is only action, but I can let it slide. These panels include the stretches and curves of Oda along with great angles. The flanche lacks clarity though. Summarizing begins to take place, the 2 panels being separated by the 2 falling back. The poses and spacing of the summaries look great, just like the previous summary, which decreases the negativity of this choice. The 2 end the battle in a double spread, with both performing flying kicks past each other. Sanji's leg is stretched out to sell his attack. The white background against the poses looks beautiful. The attacks kinda lack clarity because none of them seem to land, but that's due to the writing of this scene mimicking an anime samurai clash. The 2 cough up blood and then land as follow through. The delayed effect of Vo's shot begins to take effect in the panel with nice distancing between the 2. The panel has Mr. 2 flying past Sanji with nice spiraling trails of smoke. The distance between the 2 characters and the curving floor looks great. Sanji lands a kick off screen after shaking hands with 2, officially ending the battle. This fight looked amazing. The use of foreshortening is frequent and astounding. Oda also really knows how and when to bend and stretch the characters. The poses were consistently great. The use of the backgrounds to create beautiful angles along with fisheye lenses was a fantastic choice. One weakness would be that the attacks often skip anticipation or at least a clear one. The fight also made summarizing look as great as it possibly could, minimizing the drawbacks of the technique. Overall, this fight was visually breathtaking and probably one of my favorites in general. One Piece has the best individual action panels with this level of work. In this video, I'll analyze the art in Zoro vs Mr. 1. I recommend watching Naruto vs Sasuke and Sanji vs Mr. 2. The first explains my grading system. The second will give more context to my grading because it has a lot of the same qualities as this one. The battle starts in chapter 190 with Zoro defending Vivi. Mr. 1's attack has anticipation, but Zoro's defense doesn't because his appearance is a surprise. The panel has good poses, a good camera angle, distance, and slight fisheye. Zoro's next attack has anticipation in a small panel, but the attack on the next panel is shot from far away, which is not desirable. The next attack also lacks windup, but the pose, spacing, and distance are good. The focus lines add emphasis. There is follow through when they both back up. The fight continues in 193. The panel of Zoro's first attack has a good camera angle, spacing, a decent pose, hit marks, and slight fisheye. Mr. 1's attack has a stream behind it, showing its travel path. Zoro also has motion lines doing a similar thing. Zoro putting his third sword in his mouth is part 1 of his anticipation. Him preparing Ushibari is a nice panel. The camera angle, pose, and distance look great. This serves as the second anticipation. Mr. 1 prepares his defense in 2 panels. The actual attack has good space, pose, and distance. There are hit marks showing where Zoro's attacks landed. The focus lines in the background help show the camera perspective. The panel of Zoro relaxing is follow through. The next attack has anticipation, but it's out of camera for both. The actual attack has a nice low angle, toning, distance, and slight stretching. The panel of Mr. 1 spinning looks epic. The foreshortening is very noticeable. The characters are stretched a little. There is another low angle to show his movements effectively, and the black turns into motion lines. This is paired with small spinning streams of movement for further clarity. Mr. 1 pulling his arms back in the next panel has a great pose and camera angle. His fingers turning at the blades serves as the third anticipation panel. The actual attack has good spacing, but the camera could be closer. The attack is also covered by Zoro, decreasing the impact. The poses are nice though. The next attack has anticipation. The actual attack is shot from a nice angle, with the attacking hand being the vanishing point.
The poses are cool, but the panel is small. The next panel is summarizing, but the poses are really good. The hit marks show that attacks are going on. The next panel looks astounding. Both poses are fantastic. Mr. 1 has speed lines making a trail, and Zoro has an after image to show where he was before the dodge. The focus lines make it clearer that this was drawn in 1-point perspective. Zoro flipping back is follow through. The panel has good distance and his legs curve a little. The Pirate Hunter has 2 panels of preparation before launching Onigiri in 3 panels. We are given 2 panels of a zoom in from Zoro's eyes before seeing the attack. The attack panel has great space and amazing poses. Mr. 1's pose really sells the falling over motion. The hit marks sell the damage of the attack and the focus lines serve as background. Toragari has 3 panels of build-up. The shot of Mr. 1 falling over with Zoro in the background is creative. The pose of Zoro leaping has Oda's noodle curves and is a great pose. The panel of the attack landing looks breathtaking. The way Zoro's body is twisting is displayed by the position of his upper body versus his lower body. Mr. 1's legs being drawn so large creates amazing distance. The spacing is great. The next panel has the follow-through of Zoro launching his opponent down. The pose and the angles of the buildings are great. Mr. 1's next attack has no anticipation. The poses are good. Zoro's arm moving towards the camera looks cool. The next attack has little space, but the poses are also good, especially Zoro's. Mr. 1's leg coming towards the screen in another panel is an amazing shot. Zoro's hand and toning sell the distance. The panel of the attack is shot from a simple angle, but the poses are spectacular. Zoro rolls away as follow-through. Mr. 1's next attack has very bad clarity. You can't tell what he's doing from the panel alone, and the spacing is small. Him blasting Zoro back is follow-through. Zoro lifts the debris in one panel and throws it in another. Then both prepare for their next attack. The panel of Zoro thinking has nice distance, shown between the sizes of his fists. 1's attack is released after the build-up. Zoro jumps at him in 2 panels and then goes into summarized attacks, but the poses of both sides are cool. His next attack has 2 panels of build-up from a cool low angle that lead into an appropriately zoomed out display of the attack. The over-the-shoulder panels on the next page look great, with the second being Mr. 1's anticipation. The panel of Zoro blocking is kinda small, but it has a good angle. Zoro's next attack has off-screen build-up, but the attack has the same properties as his Toragari. Nice poses, angle, and distance. Mr. 1 flipping back is follow-through. Zoro's blade already being at his face in the next panel emphasizes his speed. The panel of Gazamidori has good posing and is the second build-up. The actual attack has good space, an amazing angle, good posing, and a hit mark for extra measure. The curved floor and motion lines emphasize Mr. 1's damage in the next panel. He flips back and both serve as follow-through. Mr. 1's buzzsaws have 2 panels of preparation. Both run at each other for anticipation. The attack panel looks amazing. The solid black shadows against the white really highlights the fact that blades are clashing. Zoro's pose is creative and has him bending. His hunched over position shows that he's putting his weight behind the attack. The low angle also looks cool. The next panel is the follow-through for Zoro, but the anticipation for Mr. 1, which is clever. His fist being close to the screen is fantastic. The panel of the attack is also fantastic. Both poses are amazing, especially 1's pose. The distance and blood splatter look amazing. The pirate bleeds in 3 panels before being struck again. The way Zoro's upper body and legs drag behind the point of impact along with the motion lines sells the action. The stream of spirals shows the travel path, emphasizing the action, and that Mr. 1 is still using buzzsaws. The next attack has complete action. The panel of Zoro flying looks great. The angle of the pose of Mr. 1 looks badass, and the blood splatter shows where the attack happened. Zoro is attacked once more. In this panel, Mr. 1's pose, along with his arms being blurred out for motion blur, makes this pop. When Zoro prepares Shishisonson, the panel has after images to show his movement. The pose also looks cool. Mr. 1 slides in as build-up for his attack. The panel has a nice pose, but he's interrupted on the next pages. The 2-page spread of Zoro landing his EI attack is beautiful. The perspective allows for Zoro to be standing above Mr. 1. The pose and foreshortening, along with the solid black shadows, are brilliant. The blood splatter and drops of blood close to the screen are welcome additions. Finally, Zoro sheaths his sword as follow-through, ending the battle. Like the fight with Sanji, the art made use of foreshortening. Almost every panel has an exaggerated amount of it. The panels had some stretching and bending, but not as much. The poses were epic, but once again there isn't a lot of anticipation. This was overall a beautifully drawn battle. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.